you'd agree, from the 1616 Visa Del Mar video, that's that video, the one that shows the whole struggle and all the fuzzy stuff, right? You'd agree that there is no evidence from that video of an actual gun being discharged, correct?
Correct, from that view by itself, no.
The sequence surveillance video that you put together overlaps video from the 1616 Visa Del Mar video with the audio from the 6200 Hollywood Boulevard video.
Correct.
All right. And that's the People's Exhibit 15, is that right?
It is.
15? Okay. And you did that, right? You basically overlapped the video from 1616 Visa Del Mar that had no audio, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the audio from 6200 Hollywood.
Correct.
And you put them together. And you agree that the 1616 Visa Del Mar video, you just said this doesn't have any sound, but the video from 6200 Hollywood Boulevard does.
That's correct.
So you overlapped the videos from each location, trying to show when the shot would have occurred during the 1616 Visa Del Mar video.
Correct.
Okay. Of course, if the overlap detected is off, even by a fraction of a second, the shot would not have occurred during the precise moment shown on the overlap 1616 Visa Del Mar video, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the 6200 Hollywood Boulevard video, you extracted 3 sets of videos from 3 different cameras maintained by the business at that location.
Correct.
And it's been stipulated, you heard of that, we agreed
Yes, sir.
on something. It's been agreed that the date and timestamp on the 3 cameras from 6200 Hollywood Boulevard are approximately 2 to 3 minutes faster than actual time.
That's correct.
And the reason the cameras are approximately 2 to 3 minutes faster than actual time instead of the exact amount is because each camera is off from an actual time by a different amount.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's not unusual when we collect video.
Yes, it's unusual. Okay. I'm saying the reason that you're using a range of 2 to 3 minutes as opposed to 2 minutes and 4 seconds is because each of those cameras is off from actual time by a different amount.
Yes.
For instance, on camera 1, you hear the first shot at 10, 15, 53 seconds. Hold on before we play it. We have to mark this. This is a defense exhibit.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to see this. This states the stipulation.
Well, that's what. What's what there?
He's saying the video from 6200 Hollywood was off by 2 to 3 minutes. He's talking about the business, the parking lot entrance, and the
Why don't you two confer? If I don't need to get involved, I don't want to get involved.
It's not 1, 2, 3.
So that's what I'm saying. The 6200 Hollywood. The one that's off 2 to 3 minutes is this one.
Yes.
You guys stipulated it was action.
All right, quick question. There's procedure, because sometimes I feel like I'm in like the twilight zone here. The exhibit 39, I did not object. It was displayed to the jury before we put in evidence. Is that procedurally how we do this here? I mean, this was put on the
That says
easel.
6 photos.
Yeah, no, I know, but they were displayed to the jury before the witness identified them, before they entered. Is that, I'm getting an object, right? So I've waived any objection, I'm objecting, I'm asking procedurally, is that okay? I'm not making an objection.
All right,
Yes,
repeat, is what
sure.
name?
39, exhibit 39, for example, these. They will put up on the screen, whatever it is, any exhibit, doesn't matter what it is, right? This. They will put up on the screen before they were shown to the witness, they were just put up on the screen.
Weren't they shown to Detective Flores while he was on the stand?
No, they were shown to detect floors like this, so the whole jury saw them also. Again, I didn't object. They're not controversial.
What's the problem?
I don't know what's the problem.
It's a question. Can we do this too?
Yes.
Wait, first of all, not only did I show them to counsel immediately before I put them up, I showed them I showed them to Mr. Takapina, Mr. Siegel, and the defendant himself to make sure.
You did
it
very
didn't have
nice.
Anything in
No,
there.
you both can't speak at the same time.
Well, to get him Johnny, I'm not arguing.
Just to make sure there was nothing in there that he found, too private to
Yes,
share. So
what
what I'm
kind-
saying is, I previewed this for them well in advance, so they could make any objections they want.
But I maybe didn't get a part where I'm not complaining and I didn't object. I'm asking a procedural question.
Just show him the photos first.
Okay, that's a joke first, and then I just throw them up here, even though the witness has identified it.
You can put them up there and then ask who you can ask, the detective?
Now, hypothetically, I don't even know, Your Honor. One of my witnesses, right, say, I have a photo of one of my witnesses. I
If
put
it's
it up
not
there.
an objectionable exhibit, and a witness is on the stand and establish a foundation
I can
for
put it right
it,
up.
then you can put it up.
Okay, so I showed them, obviously, if they see it first, they don't tell me you have a problem, then I can do that. And that's what I was asking. In New York, if I did that, I'd get remanded. Just you know.
If you did what?
Show an exhibit publicly to the jury before it was entered. Literally. That's what I was asking. You guys are really California mellow out
We're
here.
a long way from New York.
Yeah, you are.
All right, anything else?
No.
May I say something on the record? Usually my house is not usually that junky. I just want y'all to know that. Let's be clear. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
it.
it was cool. Thank you, and thanks for the check.
That puts a whole new, that puts a whole new light on the case. All right, we'll see everybody at
On November 6th, 2021, that's, by the way, the date of the incident, correct?
What incident? The shooting?
What incident happened on November 6th, 2021?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm not saying what,
On November 6th, 2021, your girlfriend Lydia Parker sent you a text message accusing you of being a fraud, correct? On that date.
Objection relevant, Your Honor.
no, I don't know.
Hold on.
It's also
Sustain. Sustain.
motion to strike any answer on
The
the
answer's stricken.
Thank you.
Okay. Sir, on this topic, one last time. The height of your music career was in 2021, you told this jury. You were making money, you said, quote, I finally figured out how to make money. In 2021, did you make money from your music business? Yes or no?
I didn't make money, but I figured out how to make money
Okay.
within the music industry. And my artist was making money because it's their royalties. I could have made money, but it wasn't enough for me to even, I don't want that money.
Okay.
I'd rather get them a deal.
Okay. In 2021, did you make money from other businesses aside from the music business?
I don't recall.
You don't recall if you made money any other way?
I don't recall.
Did you have any other
I don't recall.
jobs? Question. Did you have any other jobs in 2021?
Don't recall.
Okay. So it's your testimony, you don't know if you made any money in 2021?
I don't recall.
Okay, Your Honor, I'm gonna move into an area now, based on that answer.
Say again?
I'd like to move into an area now, based on the answer, I think the door's open.
Our position is 352 and relevance.
I don't know what area you want to do. Why don't you come on up and tell us?
I don't recall.
Okay, well, who's Lydia Parker?
That's that's my girlfriend.
Does she go by the name of Gemma Jones?
I don't recall.
Well, does she have a website named Gemma Jones?
I don't recall.
Okay. Let me ask you this, did she text you a website of herself?
I don't recall.
Let me ask you a question, please, sir. Did she text you a website of herself entitled gemmajones.ch?
I don't recall.
Okay.
No.
Relevance inquiry.
Just for the record. Overruled.
Right, that she,
Objection's overruled.
I'm just gonna refresh, have to refresh, please, recollection.
Fine. Do you want to show Mr. Ephron the document?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I've seen it from the record.
That's what you don't have to say, correct?
Just let me read.
I'm just correct. Is that your number?
That's my number.
Just take a look at this, and then take a look at that.
What am I looking at?
Right. Can you read that?
I don't know what I'm looking at.
This, right there.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you read it?
See yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay.
Did you show that to him to help him refresh his recollection?
I'm gonna ask him that question now.
But that was the purpose.
Yeah, that's the purpose. Okay. So having seen that, does that refresh your recollection that Ms. Parker sent you a website named jimjones.com?
No, he doesn't.
Does not? Okay. How did Ms. Parker make her money?
Objection relevance.
Okay. Do you, sir, or should I say in 2021, did you along with Ms. Parker make money in prostitution?
No.
Question was compound that's referring to two people.
I can do it.
It assumes this fact not.
It is a comment, just limit it, you can limit it down.
Sir, did you make money in the business of prostitution in 2021?
No.
And you've never seen that website, gemmajones.ch before?
Objection asked and answered. Said he doesn't remember.
Have you ever seen it, if you recall?
No, I don't recall.
All right. Okay, let's move on
Got it,
to
Ron.
a different topic.
Yeah, you got it. You invest in real estate?
I do.
And you made a down payment towards a luxury apartment building, in new construction condominium in Miami?
Objection Vegas to time, therefore.
Sure.
Sustained as
May,
to,
in May of 2023. Did you make a down payment towards a luxury apartment building and a new construction condominium in Miami?
I don't recall.
Okay, I'm gonna put up, and this is one of the 7, so to speak. I'm gonna put up, sure.
is this an exhibit?
Yes.
I don't know which one it is.
The next exhibit will be H as in Henry.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna wait for John for a second.
All right, I've seen it. Thank you, Ron.
Okay, John?
Yes, thank you. I've seen it.
Guys. What up, guys? That's your Instagram, I guess, post regarding investment property, correct?
No, just, remember we talked about, just answer the question. Ask the question again, Mr.
Sure. Is that, first of all, is that your Instagram post?
I don't recall.
You don't recall if that's your Instagram
No, I don't recall.
post? So, how about the next one, guys?
Wait a minute.
It's one of
We
the,
don't want the index appearing where the jury can see it.
Do you have another exhibit you want to show? Show the other exhibit, without an index.
Your Honor, can the jury be instructed?
No,
just
just stop.
you think they saw those 100 lines over there?
I don't want the two of you arguing. There are no speaking objections. We've got another exhibit up there. Go ahead and ask about it.
Okay, please take a look at that.
I don't recall.
You don't recall what? What don't you
I don't know what you want me to look at.
That's your Instagram page, Mr.
I don't know.
Ephron. You don't know if that's your Instagram
I
page?
don't know. I don't know. Next question.
I'm sorry.
You got another question?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that building, the standard residence?
I don't recall. No.
You don't recall or no?
No.
No. So, is it your testimony that you didn't invest in that building?
I don't recall.
It says big investment moves at the standard residence.
I don't recall.
That's not your wording?
Your Honor, this has been asked and answered now.
No.
He says he doesn't recall anything about the civil rights.
I'm asking about the wording.
I don't recall.
Wait, hold on. The wording of,
That, the portion on there, big investment moves at the standard residence. Is that your wording?
Question,
I
I
said it 3
foundation.
times. I don't recall.
stay, stop, ask another question.
Okay.
If you go on to another exhibit, if you have one.
Okay. So what investment properties in Miami did you invest in?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
No.
It was only 2023.
I know. I don't remember.
So you invested it in a real estate property in Miami.
I
You
don't
remember which. Let me finish this back on, please. You invested in a real estate property in 2023 in Miami, and you don't remember which one it was?
I don't remember.
That's the background and evidence.
That is correct.
You are.
He says he has no recollection.
You are, excuse me. You first answered that you gave investment in real estate in Miami. That was the first thing before I showed you all these. So again, I'm going to ask you, which building did you
I
invest in?
don't recall.
You don't recall?
Yes.
Okay. How much did you invest in?
I don't recall, sir.
You don't recall?
I don't recall.
So you invested some unknown amount of money in some unknown building
I don't have a clue.
in 2023.
Don't have a clue.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the events on and surrounding November 6, 2021.
Okay.
And when I say the events of November 6, 2021, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the shooting.
Oh, okay. It was your understanding, following this incident, well, which one? John Iman was Rocky's manager, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you text John a video of the shell casings on November 7th, 2021 at 12:04 a.m., right?
I texted him everything. I told him that your client shot at me.
My question was one.
I don't recall.
You don't recall? Okay. We're going to refresh your recollection.
Okay.
You guys have it? Or can we just put it up or?
Your Honor, at Mr. Jacobena's request, we are willing to stipulate the witness is being asked about the specific times of text. I'm not sure if he knows it exact time. We're willing to
Who's
stipulate.
he? You say he knows it, who's he?
The witness.
Mr. Ephron.
Yeah, so whether he knows specific time, we're willing to stipulate. What's the stipulation you like, Mr. Jacobina? That
12:04 a.m. on November 7th, 2021.
Okay, so which one do you want? Trying to get stipulations, Your Honor.
So we have a stipulation, Your Honor.
Let me tell the jury what a stipulation is.
Okay.
Folks, a stipulation is another word for an agreement. So whatever the parties stipulate to, that issue is not before you. It's been proved. Whatever that they stipulate to, that has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what a stipulation is. It's an agreement between both sides.
And also at 12:04 a.m., you sent a text to John claiming that Rocky shot at you, right?
I don't know how about this the thing, but yeah, sounds correct.
And again, that stipulation still stands, right, guys?
Well, why don't you just stipulate tell the jury what you're stipulating to?
The time of 12:04 on November 7th, 2021. Same text, right?
4 minutes after you did that.
But the problem is, if you're asking him what he remembers, we'll stipulate to it.
Right.
Then if you then ask him afterwards, doesn't know the exact.
Right, you don't know the exact time, obviously, that you sent the message, right?
It was 3 years ago.
I understand you. I'm saying you don't know the
No,
exact
no,
time.
no.
Right, okay. But we have a stipulation agreement that you sent it at 12:04 a.m. You sent him a text claiming that Rocky shot him, correct?
So stipulated.
All right. And then you sent subsequently, 34 minutes later, you sent John a screenshot of your scraped fingers. Remember sending John that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And at that same time, again, guys, 12:38 a.m. on that same date, you sent John a message saying, "I'm getting itch." You remember that message?
Yeah, I'm getting itch. It was a typo.
Okay. All right. That's the message that you wrote to John was, "I'm getting itch," ITCH, right?
I don't really recall, but I think
Okay. We can show it to you. That's it. John has it. That's yours. Guys, this is the other side. Yeah. Sit there for I'm just showing you that.
Okay.
Wait, can you take 1 second?
Sure.
I was asking this question. I just wanted to get a
Okay, Mr. Ephron. So you saw that message, "I'm getting itch," that you sent to John, right?
Correct.
All right. At the preliminary hearing that we've heard about, the jury's already heard about from November 8th of 2023, you were asked about whether that message to John was you saying that you're getting rich instead of rich. Remember being asked those questions by me?
Well, the conversation,
Just call it a yes or no.
say it again?
Do you remember in the preliminary hearing in 2023, November 8th, to be exact, I asked you questions about whether that message, "I'm getting itch," was really meant to say, "I'm getting rich." Remember those questions?
Do you have page one?
Sure you are. It's page 145, lines 15 through 20.
15 through 20?
15 through 20, sir. remember that question?
Can you say it again?
Sure. I asked you at the preliminary hearing whether you meant to type, "I'm getting rich" instead of "ish." You remember me asking you that?
I really don't remember.
Okay.
I don't recall.
Or would you like me to put the transcript up, or should you want me to just read it?
Would it help you to read what was said at the preliminary hearing? Might that help you remember?
A lot was said, I just don't remember.
Would it help you to read?
Like what he just showed you?
Yes. Did you read it?
Yeah.
No. He's talking about the text message. He's talking about being shown the text message. What we're proposing is you read the transcript.
And that should be read to himself.
The transcript is
No, the transcript will still, go ahead and show him the page from the transcript.
Okay.
Mr. Ephron is going to show you something, just read it yourself and see if that refreshes what you said, refreshes your memory as to what you said when you testified the last time on November the 8th of 2020.
Okay.
Let me just show you where, okay? Right over here.
Thank you.
Yeah, Q, exactly.
What am I supposed to, this is like media conversation?
It's your testimony at the preliminary hearing.
Yeah, I don't really remember that.
Okay, so, I'm gonna just read this, I guess, of the stipulation, Mr. Wu. This is accurately read. Question, 145, line 15. Question to you, sir, was, and although you didn't make a police report about this incident until 2 days later, on November 8, 2021, you did send a text message on November 7th to Mr. Mayers' manager, John, at 2:38 p.m. saying, "I'm getting rich." Remember that?
We will stipulate that in fact, that is what was asked.
All right.
Yeah, that was it.
But Mr. Takapina is entitled to let the jury know what it says.
Oh, he just asked me for a stipulation, so I'm telling him.
Oh, he did?
We'll stipulate.
I asked him.
All right, good. Well, glad you
Well, we managed on that. Okay. Everything else, yes.
Good news.
And do you remember saying on 146 lines 7 to 8?
What are you going to read from? What page are you on?
146, I'm getting old as hell tomorrow.
146?
146, line 7 to 8.
Okay, go ahead and get on to this as long as he's asking. 146, look at the lines, read it to yourself.
Judge, Mr. Lou and I sort of figured this out. This might save a step here. I'm just going to read them and say, did you say that?
And I'm totally fine with that.
That's a little
So,
quick.
all right, so he doesn't have to refresh his
This is
recollection?
going to help us.
All right, read it.
All right. We get that, Mr. Ephron. I'm just going to read it to you.
All right.
Question. Your answer to that last question was line 7 to 8. What the fuck would I be getting rich off of? You remember saying that?
I don't remember, but I really don't remember.
I have a stipulation on it. You read accurately.
That was like a year ago.
So the stipulation is those are the questions asked and the words that are reflected in the transcript, yes?
Even more than that, that is what was asked, and he answered that, right here.
Okay. Then, a little further down, you said, continuing on, lines 12 through 14, fuck, shit, I'm getting mad. That was at your preliminary hearing when you asked about whether you said you were getting rich. Do you recall that?
Can you say that again?
Sure. You said, fuck, shit, I'm getting mad.
I don't remember that.
Okay. Well,
In what context? Like, what do you mean? Talk shit, I'm getting mad?
When you asked about the word rich, text message that you were confronted with.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Okay. So, when questioned about that word itch at the preliminary hearing, what you claimed is that you meant to write the word irritated. Is that right?
I don't recall.
Okay. Page 148 on 25 to 27. Well, Mr. Ephron, before I read that, let me withdraw that last question. What did you mean when you said I'm getting itch?
Well, when I was talking to his manager?
Yes, sir.
Well, I was just showing his manager everything, and I think he took a while to hit me back, so I said, I think that's what I wrote, but in the trend, like, that's what I meant to write was I'm getting irritated. But then you said, I'm getting rich, and that's when me and you started arguing at the preliminary hearing. Like you was trying to get something out of me or something more out of me.
So you meant to write the word irritated?
When I first spoke to his manager, I don't remember what I wrote, but from what is there, yeah.
Well, you saw the word itch, right? You saw that message where you wrote.
I mean, but you flipped it so many times. That was a fast moment. You can't make me go back and think like something that I don't really. I definitely won't write his manager in the context. If you show the whole text message, where would it make sense? I'm getting rich.
All right.
You're not showing the whole text message.
So-
You're just picking.
You saw these messages yesterday on your direct
I
testimony.
mean, if you
right?
want to pull up John's text messages, we can.
Okay, thank you, sir. So what you're saying to this jury is that you didn't mean to write that you were getting rich, right?
I don't recall.
Okay. You're not saying that you didn't mean to
I
write
don't
it.
recall, sir.
Just don't recall.
Don't recall.
Okay. So you may have been
I
meaning you're writing to get rich.
don't recall.
Okay.
If I said anything like that, I mean, not said anything. Anything I said after the shooting is lawsuit. It falls in my lawsuit. So
You what?
it falls in my lawsuit. Like a crime was committed, and then whatever I say after that's retaining money or anything that's compensating me was with my lawyers or anything else. I had lawyers present and everything else.
Well, you didn't have a lawyer at this point, did you? So,
When I spoke to John, I didn't need a lawyer. What I need a lawyer for if I didn't say I'm getting rich? And what does getting rich have to do with a man shooting me?
wait, huh?
I'm waiting. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what we got going on here.
Your private attorneys, you met with them to prepare for your testimony.
I didn't need to prepare.
You need to prepare.
No.
So you didn't meet your private attorneys at all to discuss your testimony.
I don't need to.
I understand you don't need to. My question was different.
Cause for yes, sir.
Oh. Wait, say the question again, please.
You did not meet with your private attorneys who flew here with you in preparation for your testimony.
No, they just here to support me. But I don't need the prep. I don't need the prep.
It's not responsive. Everything after no is sir.
Okay. Now, yesterday, you testified that before the shooting, you had nothing but love for Rocky, right?
Correct.
And you said that if you said the word fuck to Rocky, it was with love, right?
I don't know what you mean by that. You gotta explain again.
Oh, I don't know. I'll tell you your testimony. Go ahead. Take a look at the screen.
The text messages, I always still, like, how you say it, like, compliment or pick them up for the success. At the same time, like, you're doing bad.
Okay.
But then the same text messages, like, I never was like just straight out like, oh, fuck you. I never said fuck you, probably did, but it was like real wishy-washy in the sense like love, like I don't want to, you know, but I never really got a response to that.
Okay. That was your testimony yesterday.
Yeah, but you can bring up the actual text message that I'm talking about. We ain't gotta go back and forth.
All right, hold on. When anybody asks you a question, you lawyers, just answer the question. Don't volunteer something. If they want to flesh it out more, Mr. Lewin might want to do it, Mr. Tacopina might want to do it, then it's okay. But if you're asked a yes or no question, just the answer is either yes, no, I don't remember, or I don't know. Don't volunteer anything, right?
Can you say that again?
Is that yes?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, did you hear your testimony?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. And when you said, if I said, fuck you, it was with love, right? That's what you said.
I don't get what you're saying. Sorry.
What did you hear yourself just say?
I don't get what you're saying. I
Here's
really
my
don't.
question. Here it comes. What did you hear yourself just say?
But what are you getting at? I don't get what you're saying.
Don't worry about what I'm getting at.
But explain it again.
Mr.
I'm
Mr.
getting
Ephron.
confused. I'm getting
All right,
confused.
you just listen. He's asking you, did you hear your testimony?
Mhm.
Yes? He's just asking you.
Did I say it? Did I say, I don't know. Can you explain the question?
Play it again.
Play it again.
No, I don't want to answer this question.
Listen to this again.
I know text messages. I always still, like, how you say it, like, complimented them up for their success. At the same time, like, you're doing bad.
Okay.
But in the same text messages, like, I never was like just straight out like, oh, fuck you. I never said fuck you. Probably did, but it was like real wishy-washy in the sense like love. Like, I don't know, some, you know, but I never really got a response to that.
He just wants to ask you questions about what you said that you just saw.
Okay.
Was that truthful testimony?
Truthful, can you explain the question again? I don't know what I'm saying. Yes, I know it's
Did you just see yourself?
No, but you're not explaining the question.
Here's my question.
I see myself, but you're not explaining. So what I'm supposed to say,
Just
yes, no
listen.
to.
Look, just listen. Did you
It's
see
not
yourself?
simple.
Did you see yourself? That's
I see myself.
Did you hear yourself?
I heard myself.
Was that truthful?
What's truthful?
What you just said.
That I love him or like we was cool? I don't know what you mean. I said a lot of things.
The part that you said, if I said, fuck you, it was sort of wishy-washy with love, you know? That part.
Okay,
That's
it's true. True.
True?
Yeah.
In fact, on September 18th, 2021, at 8:19 a.m., you text Rocky, fuck everything about you, fake ass gay nigga. Right?
Of course not.
Of course not? Okay. I'm going to show you a text message now. Take a look, Mr. Ephron.
What is it legitimate?
Yes.
All right,
Federelli
Hold on. This is defense C. C is in Charlotte.
September 18th, 2021, 8:19 a.m. No matter how much the nigga tried, you not charging, I think they're changing. Fuck everything about you, you fake ass nigga. I dead hate you. Sucker ass guy nigga, then you change guy to gay. Remember sending that message?
Bro, this is in 21.
I understand. Everything we're talking about here today is in 21. Every text message he had showed you yesterday was in 21.
Yeah, but you asking me now, do I remember? You're not showing me nothing else pertaining to the text message, so I probably did write that. Is that from me?
Yes, for me.
Okay, that's cool.
That's cool. Okay. So was that wishy-washy with love when you wrote that?
I mean, you're not showing me the rest of the conversation, so I can't really.
Was that wishy-washy with love?
Yes.
That was wishy.
Yes.
Sucker ass gay nigga.
Yes.
That was with love.
Yes.
By the way, before we start talking about the events surrounding November 6th, 2021, which we will talk about, Mr. Ephron.
Can you pull up the rest of the text message?
Mr. Ephron, here's what we're going to do. I'll ask the questions. You're going to answer them. Okay, if you can. Before we talk about the events of November 6th, 2021, which you spent 2 days testifying about, I'd like to talk a little bit about you and some of the things you testified to. Money is particularly important to you, Mr. Ephron, correct?
No.
It's not important to you.
I mean, you need it, but no.
Okay. In November 2021, you told people that you were a millionaire, correct?
What?
You do not understand my question.
I don't understand this. Yes, no, I don't know.
Which you got all three in there. Yes, no,
Why
I
are you
don't.
talking about 21? I told somebody I do so much stuff. I don't know what's the contents of what you're talking about.
Okay, you know a guy named Wally?
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 Okay, so what? I'd probably say yes or no. I don't care. Like, what is this about?
Charlie said, yes, no, I don't care. That's your answer?
What is me being the, I don't get it, but no. Yes, no, I don't know.
Pick one. Pick one for the jury. Anyway.
I don't know. It's been so long. I can tell people whatever I want. If I'm a millionaire, not a millionaire, like what? I'm not a millionaire, but what does that got to do with this case?
Mr. Ephron, just answer the question. He asked you a yes or no question. Ask the question.
But I don't want to get this right wrong. I don't know what is he.
Let me answer.
Listen to the question, and just, the answer is either going to be yes, no, or I don't know. I don't know. Ask the question.
Sure. In November 2021, did you tell Wally, to Jimmy, we know who he is, right? The ID guy?
Okay, yeah.
No. Did you tell him that you were a millionaire?
You got to show me the. I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
Go ask another question.
It's important to you that you portray a very lavish lifestyle of extreme wealth, right, Mr. Ephron?
No.
It's not. Okay. You told this jury yesterday that after this incident, you don't have a social media presence anymore.
That misstates the testimony.
Yeah, no.
You don't have social media presence anymore.
No, I don't.
Your username on Instagram is Relli Balls, right?
That is.
And on your Instagram profile is a featured story you call Lifestyle, right?
It is.
All right.
Wait, would you repeat the name is Relli what?
Relli Boss.
Boss.
Boss. Like you are, boss.
My lifestyle has nothing to do with this man.
I told you, don't volunteer anything. Just answer the questions.
And under the lifestyle features, the cover photo of the lifestyle feature in your Instagram is a thumbnail image of a private jet, right?
I think that was the jet I was on with Jabari, but yeah.
Okay. Again, going back to this because you just told this jury that portraying a lavish lifestyle of extreme wealth is not important to you.
I mean, it's not. It's so much other important things in life, but I mean, you need money.
Okay. There is on that lifestyle portion of your Instagram is several photos. I'm going to show you a few. One is the fence. Help me out.
The next in order? D is in David.
D. That's something you posted, right? You put up this.
Well, what is it?
Okay. It's a photo from his Instagram lifestyle. It's one of the 7.
Dated when?
Dated December, we'll get to the case, don't be worried, Mr. Ephron. December 29th, 2022. That's you posting a private jacket, right?
Okay.
Okay. And what you wrote there, if it ain't about money, ain't liking you.
No, it says Lincoln.
Ain't Lincoln?
Linkin.
My okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, why are you showing my Instagram? I'm already getting death threats. People threatening my daughter. Like, what's going on here?
Who gave you that, Mr. Ephron?
The whole world.
The world threatened you? The whole world gave you
Because
that?
of what you're saying.
Because I'm asking you a question on your Instagram.
Because you're saying I'm extortionist and all of this, and you're putting my whole life on. This is getting really annoying.
No one is calling you an extortionist.
You're
You're going to
show,
get,
what
you're,
does this have to
Mr.
do
Ephron,
with the
you're going to
case?
get through a lot faster if you just answer the questions. If somebody asks an improper question, I won't allow it to go forward. If you're being asked a question that's lawful in a courtroom, just answer it. Even if it makes you mad, even if you don't see the point of it, just answer the questions as truthfully as you can, regardless of who asked. Please do that, okay? Yes?
Yes.
So what do you mean by if it ain't about money, I ain't linking you? What does that mean?
I don't know. It's a phrase.
And what did you
It's
mean
a
by it?
phrase.
You posted it. What does it mean?
Nothing.
How about this next one? This is defense E.
He is an ever.
E is in from your Instagram lifestyle. That's you, sir, in Mercedes with the caption, "More funds is the focus right now." And that's June 5th, 2023.
Hey, what's wrong with that?
Mr. Ephron, I'm asking you a question. I'm not saying anything's wrong.
Okay, what's up?
What do you mean by that? More funds is the focus right now.
I mean, trying to get successful. Like, what do you mean? I do private equity, I do a lot of things, but I don't understand these questions. Why am I answering questions about my Instagram?
Well, you talked a lot about your lifestyle yesterday, about your business, and right now you just mentioned private equity, which we'll get to, and how you earned your money, right? We're talking about that. So you just said you're trading a lavish lifestyle is not important to you. So I'm talking about some of the postings on your Instagram, like this next one.
But Instagram is a place of, like, I don't see how you basing me as a person off my Instagram.
Okay.
Let's take a 10-minute break.
You talking about my Instagram?
Explain to Mr. Ephron the various roles.
State that the testimony you may give in the cause nothing before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
And you please take a seat in the witness stand right over there. Please adjust the microphone and tell us your first name. Tell us your name, then spell it for the record.
Terell Ephron, Terell Ephron.
Is this no, it's stationary. We'll try to speak into the microphone. All right, Mr. Wellman, the floor is yours.
Morning, or good afternoon. Do you have a man seated at the table in the tan jacket?
Yes.
What's his name?
Rocky.
Identify Mr. Mayor.
Rakim Mayers.
And do you know him by any other nicknames?
I used to have Rocky.
How did you first meet him?
In high school, we grew up together.
How old were you, do you think, when you first met him?
Probably like 17, 18.
When you first met him, was he a well-known, famous rapper?
No.
I want to jump ahead to November 6th, 2021, the date of this incident. Do you remember approximately, or do you remember how old you were that day?
Excuse me?
How old were you on the day that this happened? Do you remember?
Probably 33, 32.
Okay. Would it be fair to say you knew him about maybe 15 years at that point?
Yes.
Over the 15 years that you knew him, were the two of you friends?
Yeah.
Can you describe the closeness of your relationship to him?
The whole 15 years?
Yeah, over the course of your relationship, sort of how it started and then how close you were throughout the 15 years.
Well, I mean, we started a collective ASAP, which is a bunch of, how would you call it, like a bunch of people from New York that got different young nerves.
It's okay. Just take a minute. Take a couple deep breaths. The relationship that you're describing in high school, were the two of you close friends? Like, would you see him every day, or was this sort of a friendship where you knew of him but didn't really know him?
No, we knew each other. We knew each other very well. I mean, it was probably like 6 or 7 of us. Probably like 4 of them was rappers.
Do you think you'd see him every day?
Up until he got famous, yeah.
Okay.
Like a little bit until he got famous.
How long do you think you knew him before? I know it's hard to peg down exactly when someone becomes famous, but about how long do you think you knew him before he became famous?
7 years. 7 years.
And over that 7 years, it was a regular occurrence that you would be with him almost every day, correct?
Yeah.
Would you describe him at that time, the beginning of your relationship, as someone that was like a brother to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you started to tell us about ASAP. What does ASAP stand for?
And it means a lot of different things, but always strive to prosper.
Were you a member of ASAP?
Yes.
Within ASAP, did you have a nickname that you went by?
Yeah, really.
Was that something that started when you were in high school?
Yeah.
What year of high school, if you remember? Like, were you a junior, a senior?
Oh, it was like a senior.
Did you know someone by the name of Elijah Elango?
Yes.
Was he also a member of ASAP?
Yes.
Did he have a nickname that he went by in ASAP?
ASAP Bills.
I'm going to ask to mark my next exhibit.
10.
Do you recognize the person depicted here in People's 10?
Yeah.
And who's that?
Elijah.
Okay. Is it easier for you to refer to him as Elijah, Ills? How do you want to refer to him?
Bills.
Ills? Okay. Was he one of the kind of original members of ASAP?
Yeah.
How would you describe for the jury your relationship or your closeness with Elijah or Ills?
I mean, it was pretty good up until the incident.
Would you, up until the incident, would you have considered him a close friend of yours?
Yeah.
Was he someone that you would talk to on a regular basis?
Yeah, I talked to him the night before the incident. I was at his crib, his house actually.
Okay. Would it fair to say, kind of up until the day of that incident, you've known him maybe approximately 15 years too?
Yeah, just
Do you know someone by the name of Jamel Phillips?
yeah.
And is he also a member of ASAP?
Yeah.
What, if any, nicknames does he go by?
He's at Bills.
Remember my next exhibit?
Is anybody having trouble here? Everybody's okay? You're having some trouble?
Yeah.
Mr. Ephron, could you try to speak up a little bit,
Yeah.
please?
Following our People's 11, Your Honor.
Yes. What is it?
It's a one-page document, a single photograph, depicting 2 people. Mr. Ephron, showing you the person on the left in this photograph. Do you recognize who that is?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Jamel, 12.
And kind of like the same question with Ills, what's the easiest way for you to refer to him?
I was never really that cool with him.
No, I mean, as we're talking about the different people involved in this, how do you want me to refer to him? Do you want me to call him 12? Do you want me to call him
Yeah.
Janelle?
12.
Okay, 12. And the person who's next to him in this photograph, do you recognize that person?
Yeah, that's Rakim.
All right. You said regarding 12 that you were not as close to him, correct?
Is that yes?
Yes.
How would you put it in your own words, how would you describe your relationship with 12 prior to the incident?
I mean, there was never no problems, but I never wasn't that cool with him. really didn't interact that much.
Would you, if
He
you
wasn't
saw
like
him
a-
somewhere?
He came kind of like later, so like I really didn't like chilling with him or chilling with anybody who came after the fact. It was ASAP.
Okay. So what you're describing is kind of you and the defendant and Ills had known each other longer, and then 12B came after that core group was formed.
Yeah, so me, Jabari, Ills, and Rocky pretty much started ASAP. And
Okay.
anybody else who came after, if they wasn't like genuinely like trying to better themselves or do something other than like fooling around, kind of distance myself.
Okay. Is that, you mentioned the name Jabari. Who's Jabari?
What do you mean by that?
What's his name?
Jabari. That's the name. ASAP Bari.
Okay. Does he have any other nicknames in your life?
Young Wood?
Would he also have been considered part of the ASAP collective that you described?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Within that collective of members of ASAP, were all the people that were members, were they all rappers?
No.
What were some of the other pursuits that members of ASAP would also pursue?
Fashion, producing, anything involved with like culture, really.
What, were you a rapper?
No.
What was your contribution to the group?
I was a manager. Not of ASAP, but I created my own company.
What was the name of your company?
Shut up.
And when you say you were a manager, what does that mean?
I was scout for talent, like I had producers, I had artists. I helped actual ASAP members with stuff.
So the managing that you're talking about is all related to the music industry,
Yes.
correct? And you're saying you would try to find people who are talented at different areas within music, like rapping or producing, correct?
Yeah.
And would you try to help get them projects?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
For opening statements. If you're inclined to be a note taker, it's not necessary to take notes during the opening statement, because the opening statement is not evidence. The opening statement is what the attorney believes the evidence will show. Whether the evidence in fact shows what they believe, well, we'll all know that at the end of the case. Once the opening statements are over and we begin with the testimony, if you are a note taker, that would be the time to start taking notes. Mr. Prislovic, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to start off by, on behalf of myself, Mr. Lewin, I'm sure on behalf of the defense too, and all the court staff, we all want to thank you so far for the time, attention, and candor that you gave to us during jury selection. We all understand that was a long process, and we appreciate your attention. After going through that long process, I'm sure some of you are thinking, wow, this must be a difficult case, or this must be a really complicated case. And to be fair to you, if I was sitting in your position and I looked out on the number of jurors that we started with, or even the number of attorneys that are up here, I probably have the same thought myself. But what the evidence will show in this case, and what will become almost instantly clear, is that this is not a complicated case. The evidence will show that the events in this case were captured on surveillance video. I'm going to start this whole presentation out by playing the video for you. So you will have that frame of reference as we're talking about different features, the people that were involved, the locations that are involved, and what happened. You will already have seen the video. The first video that I'm going to show you was captured on November 6th of 2021 at around 10:10 p.m. just outside of a parking garage entrance, mid-block, so on Argyle, in the middle of Argyle, between Hollywood Boulevard and Selma. The second video that I'm going to show you was captured 7 minutes later, so at 10:17. It was, if we're being generous, 2 blocks, maybe 1 city block away from the first location, down Argyle, around Selma, at a small intersection called Selma and Vista Del Mar. So I'm going to play the first video for you, that outside of the parking lot. Now I'm going to move to the second location, that at Vista Del Mar and Selma, and I'm going to pre-warn you, it's a little small, it's at a distance, so you're going to want to focus your attention at the top left-hand corner. All right, now let's go over the details. As I said, the people that are involved, the location, and I'll give you an explanation of what you've seen on these 2 videos. This case takes place in the heart of Hollywood. This is the iconic Hollywood and Vine. The picture you see here is just a demonstrative picture of that intersection, but it's an iconic intersection in Hollywood. That intersection is about 1 block 1 block west and 1 block north of the crime scene. So for those of you who are familiar with Hollywood and that intersection, it's a pretty big landmark, and that's where I want to focus your attention. Now, the actual shooting in this case takes place on a much smaller street, Selma and Vista Del Mar. But this is the area around where that shooting took place. It is a very densely populated part of Hollywood, and there are some landmarks on there that you might be familiar with, just so that you can familiarize yourself with the location that we're talking about. The Capitol Records building at the top, the W Hotel, and Hollywood Boulevard. The shooting, as you've seen, occurred just outside of a parking lot on that corner of Vista, Del Mar, and Selma. That was a parking lot at the time that was full of cars, and it was ringed by a nightclub on the corner, a sound studio, a hotel, and 3 different apartment buildings right around. As I said, densely populated. This was also Saturday night. Saturday, November 6, 2021, at about 10 p.m. in Hollywood. This is a time that Hollywood is busy. Now that you understand kind of the locations that are involved, I want to start with how this case starts for LAPD.
Hi, I live in the apartment on the corner of Argyle and Selma in Hollywood, and there's just been a shooting.
So at 10:18 p.m., LAPD receives this call, that there's been a shooting at the intersection of Argyle and Selma. The call continues, though.
Did you see anything, or you just heard it?
Yes. No, we watched it.
Okay, what did you see?
There were 4 men, and they were kind of fighting as they were walking along Argyle, and then they turned left onto Selma. We heard yelling, and they started running, and they turned left into the back lot apartments for El Centro Apartments.
Now, the 4 men that you see on that screen will be the 4 men that we'll talk about in a minute. They were the 4 that were at that location.
And then someone pulled out, the guy in the black sweatshirt pulled out a gun.
Okay.
And he shot, and I think the guy he shot was in blue.
Now, the evidence in this case will be that the man in the black sweatshirt was the defendant, Rakim Mayers. That evidence will be uncontradicted. As you have heard throughout jury selection, Mr. Myers is an entertainer, and he goes by the stage name APRocky. You will hear other nicknames that he is referred to in the evidence in this case, including Flacco and Luigi. At the time of this crime, Mr. Mayers was 33 years old. He has his own company that I believe is referred to as AWGE, A-W-G-E, that you will hear referred to in the testimony in this case. And as we've talked about, his significant other is Rihanna. The victim in this case is a man by the name of Terell Ephron. And Mr. Ephron, you will hear, was also a member of the ASAP collective, and he went by the nickname A AP Relli. Mr. Ephron was also 33 years old at the time of this crime. And what you will hear from Mr. Ephron is that he was friends with Mr. Myers well before this case and well before even Mr. Myers was a famous individual. That essentially, I believe they met in high school and grew up together. He has known Mr. Mayers 18 or 19 years at the time that this shooting happens. And you will also hear that he, too, at the time was working in the music industry, and he had his own company called Shut Eye Entertainment. Now, I mentioned it already, but to put a finer point on it, the group that both of these men were members of is called ASAP. It doesn't stand for what you probably thought it did when you walked into court. It's an acronym for Always Strive and Prosper. It was formed by high school age kids in Harlem, New York around 2006. They call themselves a collective. You will hear are rappers, producers, music video directors, designers, people that have different artistic pursuits that essentially work together. And there are many members of ASAP. The ones that you will primarily hear in this case are obviously Mr. Mayers, the victim, but also the two friends that were with Mr. Mayers at the time this happened. And they go by ASAP Ills and ASAP 12E. And I will just pre-warn you that 12E gets spelled a bunch of different ways. It's not always consistent. And there will be one last member that you'll hear about briefly, who goes by the stage name ASAP Bari. Sometimes people refer to him as Young Lord. As I said, the four main members of this group that you will hear about are these four men. The victim is on the far right, Mr. Ephron. The defendant is the next person to his left. As I said, ASAP 12E, his given name is Jamel Phillips, and the last is Elijah Ulanger, who goes by ASAP Ills. And these were the four men who were present at the time of both of these incidents. Now, I want to take you to that weekend, Saturday night in Hollywood. There was actually, at the time, a music festival or concert series going on known as Complex Con in Long Beach. And you will hear that Mr. Mayers was to be a performer at that event the day after the shooting, the Sunday, November 7th. Now, although I told you that Mr. Mayers and Mr. Ephron were close at one point, you will hear that throughout their relationship there was tension between the two of them. And that tension was essentially building up to the night of November 6th, 2021. You will not hear all the reasons why there was tension between the two of them, but we will get to the point the day before this shooting, November 5th, 2021, when that tension kind of comes to a head. But what happens on that day, Mr. Ephron will tell you, is that he is in a car with that last member of the ASAP group that I talked about, ASAP Bari. The two of them are driving when ASAP Bari receives a phone call from Mr. Mayers. And ASAP Bari takes that call on speakerphone So Mr. Ephron, who's in the car, can hear both sides of the conversation. He can hear Mr. Mayers, and he can also hear ASAP Bar. And in the course of that call, Mr. Ephron, the victim, heard the defendant saying these rude and aggressive things about him. Mr. Mayers at the time does not know that Mr. Ephron is in the car with the victim. This leads to the next day, November 6, 2021. You'll hear that Mr. Ephron was in Los Angeles working with one of the artists that he managed. He was asleep around 9:00 p.m. when he started receiving a series of urgent messages from not only from Mr. Mayers, but from the two other men that were with him, ASAP Ills and ASAP 12. And you'll hear that he received a number of calls kind of back to back to back from the three of them. Now, he didn't answer those calls because he was sleeping, but when he ultimately woke up, he saw that he had a number of missed calls. He also received text messages from Mr. Mayers that were aggressive, seeking a confrontation with him, asking him where he was. Mr. Mayers is on the left side of this conversation. Where are you at? Let's get to it. Stop ducking my calls. The messages that the victim's receiving are instantly aggressive towards him. So you will hear from Mr. Ephron that he called the defendant. He was groggy because he had just woken up. They had a conversation and they agreed to meet outside of the W Hotel in Hollywood. Mr. Ephron will tell you that as he went to that meeting, he was of the frame of mind that he and Mr. Mayers were going to have a confrontation. That he believed they would argue, and that ultimately this would lead to kind of repairing their relationship. So they would each be able to speak their piece and essentially fight like brothers do, and that it would ultimately bring them closer together. They would repair sort of the issues that they each had with each other. So that's how Mr. Ephron is going into this meeting. Now, let's talk about the location where they meet, this location just outside of the W Hotel. You're going to see this map throughout this case. So I want to take some time to walk through it with you so you understand the various features that are depicted here. On the left side of the screen is Argyle Avenue. On the bottom of the screen is Selma Avenue. And on the right side of the screen is El Centro Avenue. Now you can't see it in this map, but if the map were to continue off the top of the screen, Hollywood Boulevard would be just above that. In the middle of this map, there's a small street called Vista Del Mar that kind of goes north and then forces you to go east. The red arrows that you see here are the path of travel that Mr. Mayers took that evening. So it starts at that mid-block location on Argyle, continues down to Selma, and then up Vista Del Mar, around that corner, all the way to El Centro, and then he made a left turn on El Centro and went above, off the map. The numbers in the red boxes that you see here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, are the 4 different locations where the police were ultimately able to recover surveillance video from. There are 4 different locations. Attached to each one of those locations, you'll see the green triangle and with a green arrow in the middle. And what that represents is very roughly, this is not meant to be, exact, but very roughly the direction that a camera attached to that building was facing. You will also hear that locations 1, 2, and 4 captured video only. But you will hear that the location with the number 3 captured both video and audio. So I told you there's 2 incident locations, 2 altercations that happened. The first happens where the yellow box is right now, right outside of that parking garage. The second happens at that corner of Selma and Vista Del Mar. And that's where the firearm was actually discharged, where the gunshots were fired. So the first location I want to focus on is that where the initial confrontation happens. This location is the entrance and exit of a parking structure. This is that parking structure entrance if you were standing in Argyle and you were facing towards Selma. So Hollywood Boulevard would be to your back. And the entrance is on the left-hand side there. And what you will see in the videos, this parking lot entrance has those hanging indicators on from the roof that tell you how tall the garage is, so that if you are driving a tall car, you don't, of course there's a fly buzzing around me, you don't run your car into the roof of the parking structure. And I point that out because when you watch the video, you'll actually see that red indicator as a kind of a line through the video, so you know what that is. At the mouth of that parking entrance, there are cameras that are facing the sidewalk. Those are the first view that we saw. And these cameras capture the initial encounter between the victim, Mr. Ephron, who you see there, and the defendant, Mr. Mayers. And you can see that Ills is the first one to intervene to try to separate the 2 of them. And then at the very bottom of the screen, you see 12E putting his hand to try to also intervene and help separate them. Now I know it goes by quickly, and you're not as familiar with all these people, so I want to kind of break it down a little bit for you and show you what the evidence that you're going to receive throughout this case. The first person that you see in that video is the victim, Mr. Ephron. The second person who you see, who is instantly confrontational with Mr. Ephron, is the defendant, Mr. Mayers. You see on the video that Mr. Mayers is immediately aggressive towards Mr. Ephron. He's pulling at Mr. Ephron's sweatshirt, and he's pushing Mr. Ephron backward and pushes him off camera, out of camera view. The third person that you see, as I told you, is Elijah Ulanger, who also goes by ASAP Ills, or he might just be referred to as Ills throughout this. If you look closely, you can actually see his stage name embroidered on the jacket that he's wearing there. And what he attempts to do is to de-escalate this situation, to get between the 2 men and to physically separate them. And you'll see that all 3 of them go off screen for a period of time. Mr. Ephron will tell you that during the period of time that they are off screen is when the defendant first produces that semi-automatic pistol from his waistband. He pulls it out of his waistband and he's holding it to Mr. Ephron. Mr. Ephron will tell you that the defendant pointed the gun at his chest and was essentially trying to point the gun around Ills, who was between them. That at the time that he was pointing the gun at Mr. Ephron, he was also threatening Mr. Ephron. I'm going to kill you. Keep in mind, these men have known each other for a long time. And Mr. Ephron will tell you, in his state of mind, he never believed that he was going to be shot. He never believed that the defendant would actually shoot him. He will tell you that had this been a stranger, someone he didn't know as well, he would have been petrified. As you can imagine, anyone pointing a gun at you would upset you. But he knows the defendant. He knows that Mr. Mayers is not going to shoot him. He knows so much so that he'll tell you he looked at the defendant and said, if you brought a gun, you should shoot it. That's how confident he is that he knows the defendant is not going to pull that trigger. Now, the fourth person you can barely see on this video as they come back into frame, I told you, is Jamel Phillips, who goes by 12E or ASAP 12. And you can just see his hand at the very bottom of the screen. When they come back on screen, and specifically when Mr. Mayers comes back on screen, you can see the gun in his hand. You will hear that that gun that he's holding is a semi-automatic pistol, or has features that are consistent with a semi-automatic pistol. Right now, as it's paused on the screen, you can see that he's holding that gun behind his back. But you will also see the gun come forward in front of his body before he ultimately tucks it back into his waistband. And you will see from the video that there were bystanders. As I said, this is a busy Saturday night in Hollywood, walking by as this confrontation is taking place. You will hear that right after that encounter that you saw, that Mr. Mayers walked away and was walking down Argyle towards Selma. Mr. Ephron will tell you that as he walked away, he looked over at 12E, Mr. Phillips, and he saw 12E putting a pocket knife away. And Mr. Ephron, and then 12E, Mr. Phillips, walked behind the defendant, Mr. Mayers, and Ills walked behind him as well. So the three men that had come to confront Mr. Ephron walked away down Argyle towards Selma. And Mr. Ephron will tell you that at that moment, his mindset about the initial confrontation changed. I told you that Mr. Ephron will tell you when he first went there, he believed that this was meant to be a confrontation so that they could strengthen their relationship. But having just had a gun pointed at him and seeing another friend putting away a pocket knife, that his mindset changed, and he understood these men never came here to try to make peace with him. That it was always meant to be a confrontation. And he decided at that moment that having a gun pointed at him was sort of a bridge too far in their friendship. And he understood he was probably never going to have the same friendship, especially with the defendant, ever again. And you will hear that as the defendant walked away, Mr. Ephron followed behind him and was yelling and screaming at him, even though he knew the defendant had a gun. Because although Mr. Ephron believed this is going to damage our relationship, he still never believed that the defendant would actually shoot at him. It's not as if Mr. Ephron will tell you that he had some death wish or that he was not scared of guns. He will not come in and say that. What he will tell you, again, is that had anyone else done this, he would have been frightened. But he had known the defendant for so long, and they were close. So he walks down Argyle towards Selma and follows behind the three other men. When they get to Selma, they all turn left, and they walk towards Vista Del Mar. And they end up at that location we've talked about, that corner of Selma and Vista Del Mar. And as Mr. Mayers stepped off the curb he walked into frame of the camera at location number 2 that's pointing towards Selma. Now I want to take you, before I play the video again, I want to take you to that corner so that you can see from that night what it looked like. It's a small street with a parking lot immediately adjacent to it that were full of parked cars. And at 10:17 p.m. when they arrived at that intersection and the defendant stepped off the street corner into view of camera number 2, you will see video from that location. The video that I've played for you already and that I'm going to play for you again is from that location number 2. You will also see, that's the main video that you're watching, but you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a smaller video on top of it. It kind of has a bluish tint to it. And that video is from another location behind building number 2 where the number 3 is. And the video that you're seeing from that location is identified there by the green arrow. But what's important about that video, because the video does not capture the shooting at location number 3. What location number 3 captures is audio. And it captures the sound of the gun being fired twice. This is the location number 2 where the camera, the video that actually captured that shooting was. You can see the cameras at the very top corner of the building, and it's about 3 properties away from the location that we're seeing. So again, the video is captured at a distance. It's a admittedly grainy video. It's not the most clear that you could possibly have. But it captures enough features that you can identify who is who when you watch this video. So I told you the main video that you're watching is from location number 2, and that smaller location number 3 is in the corner. Before I play the video, I want to orient you to what you're seeing. Along the top is Vista Del Mar. The parking lot is just out of view of the camera at the top of the screen. Along the top left-hand corner is Selma, forms that intersection. The red arrow is the defendant, Mr. Mayers. And the green arrow is the victim, Mr. Ephron. Okay. Now what you see as the video plays is the various cameras on location number 2 switching between 3 different cameras that are mounted to that building. What's important about that, towards the end of the video, you'll see as Mr. Mayers is running away from the location, running down Vista Del Mar towards El Centro, he trips a floodlight that's motion activated, and when you watch the video closely, that floodlight is captured by both locations. So location number 2 and location number 3, those cameras each capture that floodlight turning on. And when you watch the videos together, you can see that moment in time when the lights flash on, line up. And that's how you know the sound correlates with the video that you're seeing playing at the same time from a different location. Now, I told you, we all know the video from location number 2 is from a distance. If you zoom in on the area where this incident happened, and we will play a zoomed in version of this video, what you see is a very pixelated image. But what even that captures still are the colors the individuals are wearing, which is how you can distinguish who is who on the video. You'll see Mr. Ephron on the far left. Ills is just next to him. 12, who's wearing the red jacket, is just next to Ills. and then the defendant, who's wearing all black, is at the bottom of the screen. Again, I understand if you watch this video one time, you may not pick up these features, but as you watch it repeatedly, you'll be able to tell who is who. And you'll also be able to tell when you watch these videos in sequence, because they walk in front of other cameras that are far more clear, that you can easily identify who is who on this video. So this is the zoomed in version of that incident. This does not have any audio. Now, as we play the zoomed in version, you'll also see that Mr. Ephron is struggling with ills. And what Mr. Ephron will tell you is that immediately as the defendant turned and pointed the gun at him, he jumped behind Ills, essentially to put Ills between him and the defendant. And you'll see on the video the defendant lunging one way and then the other way around Ills, trying to get at the victim who is holding Ills in front of him. Now, despite how dangerous this is, having a semi-automatic pistol pointed at you and discharged twice, you will hear that Mr. Ephron was not seriously injured by this shooting. He has these injuries to the middle knuckle of one of his hands. Mr. Ephron will tell you that at the time the shooting was happening, he immediately felt a burning sensation to his hand, which led him to believe that these were graze wounds from one of the bullets that was shot at him. Perhaps they were. Perhaps they were not. Whether or not the victim in this case was actually shot or injured by this will not be something that you have to decide at the end of the case. We ask you to wait until the end of the case when the judge instructs you on the law, what elements are actually required to be proven before you make any decision. And to listen to the charges specifically and not consider charges that the defendant is not charged with. In this case, he's not charged with attempted murder, for instance. Now, before I move on, I want to focus in on the last location that I haven't talked about much, location number 4. That location is a loading dock for this building on El Centro. It's right at the corner of El Centro and Vista Del Mar. And what you'll see in the video from that location is the defendant, Mr. Mayers, and his companion, 12E, walking from Vista Del Mar up El Centro towards Hollywood Boulevard. The arrows indicate their path of travel. They're going to come from that corner and then walk up El Centro. The camera itself is in that red circle. And you'll see this video is far more clear. And you'll see features of their clothing that you can match up to the clothing from the other videos that we've already watched. For instance, I mean, you can see just from Mr. Mayer's facial features that he's the one wearing all black. You can see from his facial features compared to the video from the parking structure. And then, as I said, the various features of his clothing, the rhinestones on the hood of his sweatshirt in both videos, and the design, the rhinestone design on the chest of his sweatshirt at both videos. And taking all the videos in their totality and comparing them is how you'll be able to decide on the video who is who. Now, I played the 911 call for you that LAPD received at 10:18, which triggered their response. And you'll see and hear that at 10:27, LAPD officers responded to the 911 call, and as is their duty, they responded quickly to this call to try to, of shots fired in the middle of Hollywood. You will hear from at least one of the officers who responded to that location, and the officer will tell you that as part of their uniform, they wear cameras that are mounted to their chest, and you will actually get to watch camera that captures the police response. After this shooting, the evidence will be that all four of these men, the defendant, 12E, Ills, and the victim, all left the scene. You'll hear that there were at least 2 people who called 911 to report this crime who were just people living in the surrounding area, not actually involved in the altercation itself. You'll hear that the 911 callers were reporting different information. So the first call would be that the gunshots were fired at Argyle and Selma. The second call will be that the gunshots were fired in the area closer to Vista Del Mar and El Centro. You will hear from the officer that as they responded, they come to the scene looking for a victim. That's their primary focus. Trying to find anyone who needs immediate life-saving attention. Their second focus will be looking for the potential suspects if they can find them. And you'll hear from the officer that as he's receiving information that's taking him to different locations, he's actually going between the different locations and trying to piece together what happened. But what will be important from his testimony is that he is not given a precise location to exactly where this shooting happened. And with the limited information that he has, he and his partners are doing the best job that they can to find any victims, any suspects, or any evidence of a shooting. You'll hear the officer talk to different people who were just out and about, try to figure out what was going on, that neither of the 911 callers would meet with them, and that they searched not only the surrounding streets, but they primarily focused on the parking lot that was right at that corner of Vista Del Mar and Selma, because the second 911 caller had told him, or had relayed that it was possible that the shooting was happening into a car. The officer will tell you that they searched the area and they did not find any evidence of a shooting. They didn't find a victim with injuries, they didn't find any of the suspects, and they didn't find any discharged cartridge cases, which are what come out of a gun after you discharge it in the surrounding area. But again, they don't know exactly where to look with the limited information that they're given. You will also hear from Mr. Ephron that approximately an hour, and he's not precise on the exact time, but approximately an hour after the shooting, he himself returned to the location. Now, at this time, the police have already responded and left. Mr. Ephron will tell you that he and his girlfriend went there specifically to look for evidence that this had happened, evidence of this shooting. And Mr. Ephron will tell you, because he knew exactly where the shooting happened, that he was able to locate 2 fired cartridge cases. And this is actually a photograph that Mr. Ephron himself took of one of the fired cartridge cases that he found. Mr. Ephron, you'll hear, went to the police 2 days later, walked into the Hollywood police station to report this crime happening. He brought the 2 fired cartridge cases with him, and he gave them to the police. You will hear that the 2 cartridge cases that he brought in were 9mm Luger caliber cartridge cases. However, you will also hear from Mr. Ephron that immediately after the shooting, about an hour and a half later, he started text messaging the defendant. And he text messaged the defendant, "You try killing me." That was the first message he sent to him. And you'll hear that Mr. Mayers' response was to deny that anything happened. The defendant, in abbreviation, says, "What the fuck is you talking about? Why are you telling people I shot at you?" Denying that any shooting has even happened. Mr. Ephron confronts him again. "You set me up to try to take me from my daughter." And the defendant responds, "I tried to do what? I know you hate me, I hate you too." The defendant responds again, "Stop making shit up." Again, denying any confrontation took place. Certainly any shooting. We have already told you in jury selection, and you will hear evidence, that after this shooting, Mr. Ephron sought money from Mr. Mayers. In fact, hours after the shooting, so this is the next day, November 7th, in the early morning hours, 3:40 a.m., you'll hear that Mr. Ephron sent a message to one of his friends saying that he wants money. And identifying the reason why he wants that money is because Mr. Mayers shot at him. You will also hear that based upon these two incidents, the parking lot and the shooting on the corner, that Mr. Ephron filed a civil lawsuit against Mr. Mayers. At the end of this case, you will not be asked to award Mr. Ephron any money. So that consideration will not be a part of your what you're asked to determine. Moving forward in time, you'll hear from LAPD detectives that Mr. Mayers' home was searched on April 20th of 2022, and that during that search, LAPD detective recovered a magazine for a semi-automatic pistol that was 9mm caliber, and that it was loaded with 6 unfired 9mm Luger rounds of live ammunition. You will hear that these items were found in Mr. Mayers' bedroom closet. You will also hear that there was no handgun that was 9mm in Mr. Mayers' home that was for that magazine. So you have a 9mm magazine, but no handgun to go with it. The last point I want to leave you with before I conclude is that we expect, in this case, that the defense will call 12B, Mr. Phillips, to testify. At the time of the shooting, again, he's friends with all these participants. He's 32 years old. And it is expected that he will testify that the defendant was, in fact, the person on the video who fired the 2 gunshots that we hear. So it will essentially be uncontested that Mr. Mayers was the person who fired the gun at that street corner, and that he will tell you the gun that the defendant fired was a starter pistol. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what the evidence in this case will show at the end of this case. As I've said, we expect that the defense will attempt to present an alternative explanation for what happened that night. But we ask you to do one thing, which is, as you evaluate the evidence from both sides in this case, to not leave your common sense at the door, and wait until the end of the case when you have all the evidence to make your decision, listen to the court's instructions on the law, and return the only just verdict there is. Thank you.
Either one. Speak slowly and distinctly, so everybody in the courtroom, especially on the defense side, knows exactly what happened. Go.
So when my co-counsel ended up getting the case, he went to robbery homicide division back in August of 2012. He went back through all of the went back through all the reports to make sure that he had everything, and he did. It turns out that in January 2024, there was a comparison done, and I want to be clear what we're talking about. There were two expended cases that were found at the crime scene by the victim in the case.
What was the date? What was the date that the expended casings were turned into the police?
The date of the incident.
It would have been 2 days later when he reported it to the police.
In other words, back at the time this happened in 2021.
All right, so the incident occurred on November 6th, so it would have been around November 8th?
Yes.
All right.
So he turns them in. There's work done on the casing, unbeknownst to co-counsel, myself, obviously I was not on the case. They ended up doing a further examination of the casing. That examination revealed that in fact the two casings are consistent with having been fired. They're 9mm casings from certain 9mm handguns. There are some markings on the casings that are somewhat unique, and they can basically track them down to a much smaller subset of firearms that could have caused the marks on the casings. Included in that is Glock 43. So,
hold on.
Okay.
Did the report say that the casings could only have been fired from a Glock 43, or could a Glock 43 be among the type of firearms that the expended casings could have come from?
Let me read the exact conclusion. Items 1A and 1B.
Those are the casings.
Those are the casings. Each exhibits characteristics typical of aftermarket slides for a series of subcompact pistol frames, including but not limited to polymer model PF9SS, Glock store model SS.
Wait, slow down because the court reporter needs to take it.
Sure. Polymer 80 model PF9SS, Glock store model SSA, and Glock model 43 and 43X. We have been given information that in fact, oftentimes, and frequently when you're looking at casings, you're not able to get a whole lot of information. But it turns out that the markings on these casings are a bit more unique, and they are not only consistent, but the examiner will testify that the markings he has seen very rarely, and that where he has seen them, where they've been recorded, are with a Glock 43 pistol.
What's the name of the examiner who did this ballistic comparison? Or ballistic
The examiner's
examination?
first name is going to be F-I-D-A-L, last name B-I-R-A-I-M-A-H.
D-I-R-A.
I-M-A-H. So the way this came about was we were looking at a different issue. The detectives yesterday afternoon sent an email to my co-counsel basically saying, hey, take a look at that report, this report that we're talking about.
Which detective?
In the attachment.
Detective Flores.
Flores?
Flores.
From Robbery Homicide?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So when this was received, my co-counsel looks and says, I've never seen this report before. So he goes back in discovery, looks at emails. We don't have a report. So we instantly contact the defense, send them out the report. I want to be clear. The report is inculpatory, not exculpatory. So obviously, not only do we have no motivation to have not turned over this report, RHD has no motivation either. What's very clear is that they believe they had turned it over, and they did it.
What time did Mr. Flores bring this to either your attention or Mr. Fugoni's?
Yesterday afternoon, you want the exact time?
Approximately.
It was yesterday afternoon. We were in court. We went back to the office after court yesterday, and that's where we went back and looked to see, do we have this discovery?
So something after 4:30 p.m.?
The email is timestamped 3/18, but I got it when we, so it was essentially received but not gone through yet until I could get back over to my desk.
You conveyed this to the defense when?
We sent it to them at 5:21.
So about 40 minutes later, thereabouts?
Because the first thing we had to do was, we had to go back and see, or have we already turned this over? So we not only emailed it, we called them. We explained the situation. The response at the time that we gave it to them initially was, well, this is the same thing that you have accused us with respect to the witness and the court's finding that they violated the court's discovery order. We responded, no, this is completely different. You had interviews starting last August.
I don't want to get into who said what. I just want to know the sequence of events.
So at this point in time, we had a discussion. We sent an email at that point to counsel, and we included the court. There was an email sent late last night at some point by Mr. Tacopina. I did not see it until somewhere around 1, 2 in the morning. In that email, Mr. Tacopina cited the Hughes case. There were no facts in the Hughes case. I went in the middle of the night, I got the case, I read it.
I don't want to know about, this would be appropriate if you want to argue your position. I just wanted to know the sequence of events.
Right, I'm not going to go any further other than to tell the court. I read the case, I then sent an email at roughly 3 or 4 in the morning. I sent it to counsel, and I sent it to the court.
All right. Can I have just one last factor on it, which is, I knew from past experience with firearm analysis that there would be a lab file or bench notes associated with the analysis. So I tried to immediately contact the lab to expedite and see if they could send that to me immediately, but they were not open at the time that I called. So we had to call this morning at around 6, and they scanned it and sent it over, and I sent that to the defense as soon as I got it.
How many pages is this report?
The report is 1 page.
The report itself is
It's
1 page.
1 page. How many pages are there total of all the police reports, all of the discovery in this case? How many pages?
Regarding this harm,
Regarding the total number of,
regarding this one.
No, I was.
no, the total number of pages involving this case and this investigation.
I would estimate 100 or over 100 pages. To be totally candid with the court, I haven't counted them, but that's just ballparking the various reports and things that we received.
All right, I understand now the sequence of events. All right, who wants to speak to the defense?
I think, I'll start. Maybe Mr. Siegel, if I leave something out, because we tackle this together. We spent literally the night before our opening, about 5 hours.
Okay. Speak slowly. The court reporter needs to get everything down, and I want everybody to know exactly what you have to say. Go ahead.
So, and I'll just stick with sort of the chronological order here. I'm not going to argue case law or anything like that, but aside from the fact that we lost 4 to 5 hours the night before our opening dealing with this, we this morning, after we get an expert report last night that was in the possession of the lead case detective in this case, not some random police officer. Detective Flores is the case detective in this case. I have to believe he understood the importance of that report. He testified at the preliminary hearing. After we get that, report that says, in conclusion, that the subcompact pistol frames, including but not limited to, which means absolutely nothing. So it could be a universe that we don't even understand of other pistols, and then goes on to list 3 of them here. This morning, we got another 28 pages of backup data on this. Backup lab, I guess, report that normally comes with a conclusion report. We got this morning. And I find it hard to believe that the lead detective in this case didn't bring it to anyone's attention from the district attorney's office until after a jury was impaneled the night before opening statements. I mean, something that they now are saying is such a crucial piece of evidence. We have an issue now with the jury. Obviously, it's a jury panel. It may affect, quite frankly, whether we would have kept or not kept a few jurors, one in particular. Now, we assured him yesterday he'd have a fair trial. You're going to have a fair trial. We've made issues regarding the veneer. You know that, Your Honor. I'm not going to rehash that. We're here. We're ready to open today. I don't even know how we're supposed to do this. This should be suppressed without question, because it changes the complexity of the case. At the very least, we have to quash this panel and start again, or strike jurors, and reselect. I mean, I think even the district attorney said, okay, well, continuance is appropriate. Mark, we paid the jury. We're ready to go. This is something that, to render fair and effective representation here, as we all assured Mr. Mayers he would have, in the midst of a trial that's already underway, we would need to locate and retain our own expert to conduct a scientific analysis. Their report was 28 pages. It took them, according to them, it took them 1 week to do this. 1 week. And that's their own lab, with their own on-staff experts. And it took them a week. How long is it going to take us? We have to go find somebody first, hope he's available, the trial will be over. We also have to make arrangements for the physical examination of the casings, scientific testing. I mean, if you look at their report, I mean, they cite some of the basis for their findings is the internet. They went on and cited all these websites and forums. I mean, there is so much work to be done here to even understand this conclusion. I mean,
All right, so what do you think?
what am I seeking?
What are you asking for?
Your Honor, I'm asking, well, and our letters laid it out. I don't need to rehash it, but our letters laid it out pretty clearly what we're asking for. There's no way to proceed in this case if this is admitted. We have to either strike this whole panel. We need a continuance. We have to start again. What I'm asking for is you include this. This is after the jury was impaneled. This is a major piece of evidence that will require us to do a lot of expert work that took them, their own department, a week to do. That's the only thing I'm requesting. Short of that, Your Honor, I can't even open if this is coming in, because I have to deal with the address. I don't even understand it. And it's on the way to court, we have 28 pages of backup data. So that's what I'm requesting. I'm requesting this to be included. It's after the jury's impaneled here. As Siegel just pointed out, there's also a balancing argument under 352, which I think is also something that's relevant here, including not limited to. But we have this whole. I don't know what to say here, Your Honor. I really don't. I want to make sure he gets a fair trial. He's here. We're ready to go. We all assured him he'd get a fair trial, and this is. I've never seen anything like this. I'm not going to talk about the other witnesses, the late Brady disclosures, or the witness we got the name of for the first time last night. I'm not whining about that. I know that's what they want to keep doing. We both have had issues with that. That's fine. I'm not going to make it an issue of it anymore. You've already ruled on that. Period. End of story. This is now a new one. I don't want to get into I told you so, but many people said to me this morning, I told you so, that this was going to happen. And I'm trying to keep my composure, Your Honor. I don't know if I've ever been this upset in the courtroom. In my whole career, both as a prosecutor and a defense attorney, I have to be honest with you, this is not right, it's not fair to him.
Hold on. Mr. Siegel, did you want to?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say,
I don't want you to repeat what Mr. Tacopina said. If you want to add something new,
no,
you're welcome to it.
I want to add something new. So I dovetail what he said with respect to the 352 arguments, and that is the report says that the characteristics include, are not limited to, certain firearms. That means the universe of firearms in this case, based on the face of that report, is extensively broad. So given that, Your Honor, I think even just the probative value of this is substantially outweighed by the danger of undue prejudice, separate and apart from the late disclosure. So it should be excluded on 352. But that's secondary to the fact that it's just incredibly late at this stage for all the reasons that Tacopina said. So I'm just adding that additional factor.
All right, what I'm hearing from you then, it seems like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth with the defenses. Like it's irrelevant. However, it's so prejudicial that it shouldn't be allowed in. It's so inculpatory that it shouldn't be allowed in.
No, I don't think anyone said it's so inculpatory. We don't understand. Saying it's inculpatory is not accurate. I didn't say it's inculpatory, he didn't say it. What he said was there's a balancing test because he says including but not limited to. All that simply means is not that it's not inculpatory, not that we just don't understand what this means. Not limited to means there's a universe of guns that have to be tested now. I don't know what not limited to means. So how many pistols does not limited to include? How many firearms does not limited to include? That's what it means.
Okay, who wants to speak to the people? Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
I want to take things one step at a time. Counsel brought up a made comparison to what has happened thus far.
Just a minute. Alex, could you please go out and tell the jurors that we're dealing with some logistical matters, and just to please be patient, and we're going to have them come in as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
One, as the court is aware, there is no logical reason why either Robert Hamadai's division or the DA's office would have in any way not turned this over. It's very clear that this evidence only helps our case. Although again, as the court pointed out, on the one hand, Mr. Tacopina says, the client cannot get a fair trial. This is so apparently damaging. Yet on the other hand, he says, hey, it doesn't really matter because it includes so many other guns that it should be kept out as being irrelevant. But what's very clear is, and I didn't appreciate the comment, when Mr. Tacopina suggests that he can't believe that the DA's office did not know about this in advance, when I spoke to him on the phone last night, that is not what I heard. What I heard was, say, listen, this is a problem for us. We understand, I'm going to quote Mr. Siegel, yeah, there's no reason why you would have not turned this over if you hadn't, which is correct, and the record would support it. Comparing this, counsel is now discussing and saying how they are being victimized by late discovery. The only late discovery in this case, and the court's aware of it, the court ordered that the discovery be turned over on 2 witnesses. It should have been turned over before the court ordered it.
I don't want to deal with something that we've already dealt with.
Okay.
I understand about the 2 defense witnesses.
Okay.
We've covered that.
Right.
Just deal with the present issue.
So, what counsel did is, he cited last night, he sent to the court a case called Hughes, 2020 case, 50 cal at 5th at 257. He included no facts about that case. At 2 in the morning, I went and I read the case, and I then sent an email. That case, so the record is clear, involved a situation where there was a Watson murder, and where the defendant was being tried on a theory that his alcohol intoxication had caused the accident. Investigation had been done by the MATE team, and they had determined that in fact it was speed and not alcohol. This was a very huge problem for the prosecution because that was the theory of their case. Apparently, the head of the MATE team started redoing a separate investigation, which the evidence suggests the prosecutor was well aware of. At the very least, and as the Court of Appeals said, the prosecutor was given information
that in fact the lead detective now had a new opinion contradicting the prior opinion that in fact, in actuality, it was caused by alcohol and not by speed. Instead of turning this over to the defense, the prosecutor literally had the witness on the stand in front of the jury. He then pauses, looks over at the defense and says, hey, by the way, here's the diagrams and here's the information that he's going to be testifying to. Defense is obviously horrified because it's the entire case. The defense asked for a mistrial. They asked for a continuance. They were both overruled. The Court of Appeals said, hey, listen, obviously the suppression of evidence, as the court is aware and under the statute, is the last option a court can utilize, only after every other option has been determined to be not harsh enough or not accurate enough in addressing and solving the situation. The Court of Appeals said, hey, listen, Judge, you had a chance to do less remedy. You didn't do it. The jury ended up convicting, and the case was reversed. To compare that case to the facts of this case, it is distinguishable for the following. Number one, that evidence was not just inculpatory, it was the entire case. Number two, the prosecutor, for a tactical advantage, which the Court of Appeal basically said in a footnote, that although the original trial judge had found no prosecutorial misconduct, that in essence the record didn't support it, meaning that there was misconduct that the prosecutor did. The prosecutor decided, for a tactical advantage, that he was not going to turn it over. He then did it while the witness was on the stand. He then opposed any continuance or mistrial. Here's what we have. We have evidence, which it is inculpatory. It's inculpatory because the defendant is found at his location, at his house. There is a 9mm magazine for a Glock 43, and there's no Glock 43 to go with it. So it's just a magazine. We already knew that the defendant had the Glock 43 magazine, and we knew that these were 9mm casings. The difference now is that there's going to be evidence that suggests that a Glock 43 is more likely to have put the marks on the expended casings than many other firearms. So the idea that this would be excluded under 352 is patently absurd. The idea that Hughes is in any way authority for what they're asking is also absurd. We talked to the lab this morning. First, what we are proposing is that we will not mention this evidence in this case in opening. We will wait and see how the case develops. As the court is aware, and the court is aware of this from the discovery of the witnesses that we got the day before we started trial, the defense is now claiming not only that it was a starter pistol, but they are claiming that the 9mm magazine, which was found at the defendant's residence, actually belonged to the defendant's manager, and that he is going to testify. So let's look at how this plays out. If the defense ends up being that, in fact, this 9mm magazine belongs to the manager, that in fact what was used at the scene was a starter pistol / prop gun, then although we don't believe that's credible evidence, that is where they're going. So here's what we're asking. One, there's no late discovery instruction, because as the court is aware, and maybe counsel is not, to have a late discovery instruction, the court has to find that we had the information and didn't turn it over. There's no reason why we wouldn't have turned it over, and as soon as we had it, we turned it over. And as the court's aware, I've been trying cases in front of His Honor for going on 30 years. As soon as we found this evidence, we contacted the court and we contacted counsel. Number two, the lab has told us that basically what they did in this case, to have someone else examine it is a very quick examination. And the amount of time that it should take for someone to examine it and end up being able to assess whether or not LAPD was accurate in what they found is ranging from a few hours to maybe a day. This is what we would propose. We would propose that at this point in time, we will not mention this in opening statement. We will see how the case develops. We will, if we believe that this is evidence that is going to be important, we will ask to admit that evidence later on in the trial. In the meantime, we will make arrangements for counsel and they can hire any qualified firearms expert. I want to distinguish between Hughes and this case. Hughes was an extremely complicated accident reconstruction involving a vehicle where multiple individuals died. It was very time consuming. It's an extremely complex investigation. This is very minor and simple ballistics interpretation. So we will make it available. We already have sent our investigators to recover the evidence. I don't know if they already have it. We believe they already have the evidence. They have it with them. And we will get it to the defense. This is related to the other issue, so I just want to make sure that this is clear. Counsel seems to be under the impression that the court has now changed its ruling and that we are not allowed in our opening statement to address the idea, which the court previously ruled we could, that we did not find out about this defense until the 20th. The court had said previously, on the record, yes, Mr. Lewin, you guys can address that issue in opening. I will decide whether I'm going to issue a discovery instruction later. Counsel believes you've now said we can't do that.
I did say that.
Yesterday, yeah.
I did. I had said yesterday that the purpose for an opening statement is to give the jury an idea of what the evidence, what you believe the evidence will show. Talking about late discovery, that's argument. So as far as your opening statement, I don't want you to mention anything about you just found out about a starter pistol. That is not part of what the evidence will disclose. I talked about that yesterday.
But I am correct. The court's original ruling was...
Yeah, that is what I said. Originally, I said, yes, you can bring it up.
Okay.
But then after thinking about it, that's not part of an opening statement. So I don't want you touching it.
Okay, understood.
Go on with the present issue about the ballistic.
So where we sit right now is that counsel is arguing two inconsistent positions. They're arguing that this evidence is so damaging that we have to start over. Now, that's not in a vacuum. It's very clear that the defense is not happy with this jury. They've made it clear.
Hold on.
No. Don't interrupt.
Okay.
He didn't interrupt you. Don't interrupt him.
It is very clear by the comments the defense has made in court where they have repeatedly said that their client is not getting a fair trial because of what they believe is the composition of the jury, the fact that they have filed a writ, the fact that they have continued to bring this up, leads to the inescapable conclusion that what they are looking for is a way to start over. I believe, Your Honor, that what we have proposed is more than fair because in the end, Your Honor, they're arguing it both ways. As the court mentioned before I ever pointed out, they're arguing, if you let this in, Judge, my client can't get a fair trial. Oh, by the way, what's the value of this anyway? What does it matter? Again, my position would be the second argument is inaccurate. It is evidence that is helpful to our case. It doesn't prove the case by itself, but it is definitely helpful. It is not irrelevant. It's not dreaming too.
All right. You don't have to go on.
Okay.
I believe I have enough information to make a decision.
All right, if you heard, please.
No, you can't.
I can't respond to what he just said about the jury.
it doesn't matter about what he said about the jury. That has that has no bearing on any decision I'm going to make.
There's a record, though. There was a record.
I don't believe that you are unhappy with the jury. Mr. Lewin might say you're unhappy with the jury, but I don't believe you are. If you were, you wouldn't have accepted the jury. I believe that both sides are satisfied with this jury and that both sides will get a fair trial. You don't need to respond to it because it doesn't matter whether he does or does not think you're happy with the jury. I believe that you are satisfied with the jury. All right, here's the way I want to deal with the latest, recently finding out about this ballistic report. Everybody at the table, all counsel, to me, has great credibility. I accept what all of you say. I don't believe that there's been any nefarious conduct by anybody. If this late report involved, all of a sudden it was disclosed that a witness, an additional witness positively identified Mr. Mayers as the shooter, that would be very critical and crucial. If a witness came forward and said, yeah, Mr. Mayers confessed to me that he shot A AP Relli, that would be very critical and crucial. If a firearm, if a 9mm was recovered, that could be ballistically compared to the casings, and that just became discoverable or became disclosed, I think that would be critical. But that is not what happened here. What I'm seeing here is that the casings that were recovered were examined, and the opinion is they could have been fired from a Glock 43 or any other number of types of 9mm. You have said that, well, now you want to hire a ballistic expert. That's not fair to you and your client. So this is what I am proposing. We have a list, a Superior Court list of firearm examiners that have been recognized as experts. My star judicial assistant over there, Alice, will print out that list. Ms. Kaplan is an attorney who practices in this area. If there is someone on the list that you want to hire, contact that person and tell them this is crucial that the ballistic evidence be examined now, not later, but now. The court will pay for it. Mr. Mayers will not have to pay for this. We will. If the firearms examiner wants extra money because it's a rush, the court will pay for it. If you are not satisfied with the people on the list, then if you want to find your own examiner who will do the examination, the court will pay for it. If it's necessary that I speak to the examiner to impress upon the examiner the importance of getting this done ASAP, I'm glad to do that. I am providing my cell phone number to all of you. If you need to call me any time of the day or night, I will speak to you. I will speak to a firearms examiner. If you feel it is necessary, Mr. Takapina, we can be dark on Monday.
Raise your right hand, please. Thank you. You solemnly state that the testimony you may give in the cause not pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did.
Thank you. Please take a seat in the witness stand there. And please, thank you for adjusting the microphone and state and spell your name.
Sounds like a time. Go ahead.
First name is Thomas, Thomas. Last name Zizzo, Zizzo.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead. Mr. Rivers-Loman, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. So would you start out by telling the jury who you work for?
Sure, I work for the City of Los Angeles Police Department.
And within the LAPD, what's your current rank?
I'm a sergeant.
Do you have a particular assignment within LAPD?
I do. I'm assigned to Southeast Area Patrol in the city of Watts, well, part of the city of St. Watts, and I work patrol there.
And prior to your assignment patrol in Southeast, were you assigned to a different station?
Yes, I was assigned to Hollywood area also in patrol.
You keep using the word patrol. Can you explain to the jurors what it means to be assigned to patrol within LAPD?
Sure. Well, patrol is the very basic function of law enforcement. If anybody were to call the police during an emergency, uniformed officers such as myself, as I'm in uniform now, would respond and meet with you and handle the emergency or respond to the emergency.
Drive around in a typical LAPD black and white patrol car?
Correct. Marked vehicle, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you working on Saturday night, November 6th, 2021, between 10 and 10:30 in the evening?
I was.
In the Hollywood division, are Saturday nights generally busier for law enforcement?
Yes, they are.
That night at around 10:20 p.m., did you respond to a 911 call?
I did.
Just so that the jury is clear, when you respond to a 911 call, can you explain to them exactly how it is you receive information from someone who would say call 911?
Sure. So it starts with the person calling for police service. It could be anybody. They call 911 for an emergency. It goes to a person who takes the call, receives the information from the caller, and then they pass that information on to a dispatcher who directly communicates with us. And then we get that information from them.
So when you're out in the field and you're receiving, when you receive that information, do you receive that over your radio?
I do, yes.
When you're receiving information through the radio from a 911 call, is that really just a summary of the 911 call?
Right. That's correct.
Okay. That night, November 6, 2021, do you recall the general area that you responded to at around 10:20?
I do. Selma Avenue, Argyle Avenue, that intersection, and also Selma and El Centro. They're separated by 1 block from each other.
Wait, you said Selma and Argyle and what?
And Selma and El Centro?
El Centro.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask Mark my first exhibit, 1-page document with a map. It may be marked Peoples 1.
Does the defense have this?
I just went over the exhibits with Mr. Tackney.
All right, that's People's 1 for identification?
Yes, and if I can, Your Honor, I'll mark Peoples 2 at the same time. It's a satellite view photograph from Google of the same area generally depicted in People's 1. Okay. Sergeant, I'm showing you what I just marked as People's 1. I'm going to start broadly with, do you recognize the general area that is depicted in that map?
I do.
Now, you said that you responded to Selma and Argyle, correct?
That's correct.
Do you see where that's depicted on this map?
I do.
Can you point that out?
Sure. This intersection here.
There's a pointer there somewhere. You can use that. Easier.
This intersection here. Selma being east-west, Argyle being north-south.
Does the court need to describe it any further if it's marked? Thank you. And you said you responded to Selma and El Centro, correct?
Correct.
Now, I just want to point out for the record that on People's 1, there is an icon of a firearm just meant for representative purposes, not displaying anything specifically. Okay. Showing you People's 2, does this appear to be the same? Does this appear to depict the same area that you just went over, Selma and Argyle and El Centro and Selma?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to stick with People's 1. If you recall, what was the nature of the call that you initially responded to at that location?
It came out as a possible shooting had occurred.
Did it give any details about a particular area?
It indicated Selma and Argyle.
How familiar were you with that area of Selma and Argyle?
Oh, very familiar. I'd worked Hollywood several years prior to that date.
And I neglected to ask, but I should. How long have you worked for the LAPD?
It'll be 11 years this March.
And do you recall how long you were at Hollywood? Did you just say?
About 8 years.
8 years. Okay. If you recall, what were some of the buildings or businesses that were at that intersection of Argyle and Selma?
Sure. So, at the northeast corner here, there's a hotel, a recording studio, and a nightclub here, the Argyle. And across from that on the west side is an MTA bus depot turnaround, where MTA employees take their buses in and conduct their business. On the southwest corner here of Selma and Argyle is all residential. And then southeast corner here of Selma and Argyle, this is developing residential at the time, I believe.
Okay. Stick with the building where you described the bus terminal was. If you remember or recall, was there also residences above the bus depot?
That's correct.
And when you say residential, would that be like an apartment building?
Yes.
All right. And the southwest corner, that building that you described as residential, would that also have been an apartment building?
Yes.
The uniform that you're currently wearing, it appears you're equipped with something almost dead center in the middle of your chest. Can you describe what that object is for the jury?
This is a body-worn camera.
And were you wearing a body-worn camera that day, November 6, 2021?
Yes, I was.
How does that camera operate?
So, it's always in what we call standby mode. So, it's not actively recording, but it's recording 2 minutes of film, no audio, just film only. And at the time you activate it through this button here, this circle, it'll capture the last 2 minutes of video only, no audio, but the audio starts when you activate it. So you have a 2 minute, what we call buffer of video leading up to that activation where it's now both audio and video. So we activate that when we have public contact to capture the encounter or the incident. When we're responding to emergency calls, lights and sirens, we have it on before we even meet with anybody to document the response there. And then when the contact is over with and it's no longer needed, we just power it down by activating the same button.
Okay. Say you're working a typical shift, you record video on your camera, your shift is over. What do you do with the camera at the end of the day?
So at the end of the day, we have docking systems mounted in the hallway, and we mount these at the bottom. There's a connector where it charges the camera, and it also takes the video recorded from the camera and uploads it into our storage cloud, if you will, so it can be accessed later.
Are you able to access your videos later?
I am, yes.
Now, in anticipation of your testimony today, did you go back and re-watch your video from what would almost be almost 4 years ago?
Yes, I did.
Okay. That day, November 6, 2021, you said you were wearing a camera, but did you activate your camera in response to this specific call?
Yes, I did.
All right, Your Honor, I'd ask Mark. My next exhibit, which is a DVD, has one video file. It could be marked as People's 3. And the video file that is on the DVD has an accompanying audio. If it could be marked as People's 4.
You talking about the transcript?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
People's 4.
I don't know what I said.
You have transcripts for everybody?
I do.
Alex, could you distribute the transcripts?
We have a second to each other.
To talk with each other?
Yeah,
Sure. Hold on. Is there an objection to that?
Yes.
Overruled. Alex, could you distribute the transcripts to everybody? Does anybody at the table need a transcript? Everybody have it? Almost everybody have a transcript? Missing one? All right, everybody has one, all 16 jurors? All right. Mr. Sloman, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Sergeant, I have the video, the sole video that's on the DVD up on my computer, and I have it paused at 2 seconds on the video player. I know it's kind of a blurry and out of context image, but if you can, do you recognize this to be your body-worn video captured that night?
Yes.
Okay.
For the record, that's P3 is being displayed.
Yes. Correct.
All right, I'm going to actually play the video all the way through, and then I'm going to ask you some follow-up questions based on the video.
Okay.
So, starting it at 2 seconds.
3, I'm code 6 at Selma and Central.
623, Roger, Selma and El Centro. 624, Roger.
What's the description?
Female black, wearing a white shirt, red shorts. Number 2, wearing all black clothing.
White shirt, red pants? Location, make this for you.
623,
Some people are calling saying that there was a shooting over here at this corner. Did you hear any gunshots?
I thought I did hear it, but I wasn't sure. But it was 2 shots.
Okay.
It was a gunshot, it was 2 shots. But now, it was down there. It was down there.
Yeah, U3 Roger, I'm meeting with an MTA employee now at Selma and Argyle northwest corner. He's advising he heard 2 shots in the area. In the direction of Vista Del Mar and Selma. So yeah, okay, cool. Did you hear any arguing or tires screeching or peeling out, anything like that? Okay, just 2 pops?
Yeah, just 2 pops. You know, I was sitting right there. I was sitting there. I said, oh man, that's nice. I said, oh, that sounds like a shot. A couple of guys. But you know, it could have been one shot, but then that sound was happening. But it did sound like that. It was like that.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks. He heard 2, possibly could have been gunshots in that direction, which is by Vista Del Mar. And didn't hear any arguing or fighting leading up to that. No screaming, no tires screeching, anything. And we go on Selma to Vista Del Mar. Vista Del Mar is that weird street that snakes around behind that club, maybe over there. Yeah. Follow up at scene as well. Is the video exciting? This is the parking lot, this is the stop zone.
before noon. I'm trying to bring this video right now, like 10 minutes ago. That's all I saw was the police. You remember what he was wearing?
Okay. Now that we've watched the entire video all the way through, do you recognize, is that an accurate depiction of your activities that night?
Yes, it is.
Near the beginning of the transcript on page 2, and if you need me to go back to the video to refresh me, just let me know.
Thank you.
But at the beginning of the transcript on page 2, around line 7, and then continuing to line 9, you say, I think you're talking to a fellow officer, "Nothing, huh?" Followed by, "Yeah, it was only one call, too." What were you referencing in making those statements?
So I was asking another officer who, I don't remember it being so long ago, but if they had seen anything, they hadn't. And then the comment about one call, well, when there's a shooting, especially in a densely populated area, you get more than one person calling. And that's always an indication that you more than likely have a legitimate shooting, because when you get one call, and I dealt with this as recent as of yesterday, and I've been dealing with my whole career. We have people that suffer from mental illness that live in the city, and it's very real for them. And they'll call and say that they heard or saw something. And a lot of times it's a shooting. So one call will come out because it's not actually a real shooting, but to them it is. So they call, and we keep track of those incidences, and we find out later on who keeps making those same calls. So when we have one call, especially in a densely populated area, it could be somebody suffering from a mental illness, or it could be a prank call, because we do deal with that, false reports of emergencies. When we have a legitimate shooting, and typically you'll have multiple radio calls, multiple people calling in, because you hear the shots, you see the shooting, there's witnesses, right? And then when you get there, you have people coming out, leaning out of the windows, pointing, that sort of things.
So when you say to the fellow officer, "Yeah, it was only one call," or words to that effect, are you essentially communicating right off the bat, "I'm not so sure this is going to be a real shooting call"?
Right, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Shortly after that, there's a paragraph between 10 and 14 that starts with "all units, shooting just occurred." Can you describe for the jurors what that language is, or where that's coming from?
Sure. So this is actually the second radio call that came out. So the first call prompted our response there, and while we are there, this line here, 10 to 14, is an additional radio call. So now it's 2 radio calls. And so those comments there give a suspect description, a location of a shooting that occurred, clothing description of the suspects, a description of what happened. He fired into an unknown vehicle, unknown victims down, and then last direction of travel there at the last sentence, last seen on Selma towards El Centro.
Would it be fair to say that the first call that came in was not captured on your body-worn camera because of the buffering that you were talking about?
Correct. That call came out before I initiated my Code 3 response. You actually see me writing parking tickets. It came out while I was doing that, prior to me activating. Yeah.
When you say Code 3 response, what does that mean?
Right, sorry. So Code 3 is a designation that we use to denote that we're responding lights and sirens. We call that our Code 3 equipment. So.
Okay. Now, you said that second call comes out with information that there are potential suspects on Selma towards El Centro, and it gives a description of the clothing of the suspects, correct?
Correct.
If you need me to go back to the video, I will, but do you recall from watching the video where you were when you received that radio transmission?
I believe I was actually at the intersection of Sunset and El Centro. I'm sorry, Selma and El Centro.
So you're at the location where the call is saying the suspects are, correct?
Correct.
So what did you do?
Continued to look out the window and canvass and see if there were those anybody matching that description of those suspects present.
Is it fair to say you did not see anyone that matched that description?
No, I did not. Yeah.
Okay. I believe on the recording you say, I'm code 6 at Selma and El Centro. Can you just explain what code 6 means?
Sure. We use these codes for brevity and clarity. It just means this is where I am. So if I say I'm code 6 at Selma and El Centro, this just means I'm there present at Selma and El Centro. So they know where I am, right? There's officer safety reasons and then letting everybody know that I'm there.
Okay. So take me back to that night. You received first call, Selma and Argyle. Second call, Selma and El Centro. You happen to be there when you received the second call. You've not seen what is supposed to be described there. First, do you, based on your long work in patrol, do you have any reason why it's possible that that information would come out, but those people wouldn't actually be there at that time?
Maybe a delay in reporting.
Okay.
Right.
So it's possible they were there earlier, and as it gets filtered through the multiple people to get to you, it's just not there at that time?
Correct.
And then you, as you're at that intersection, Selma and El Centro, you're not seeing these people. What do you do after that?
Well, that was when I approached the MTA employee who was seated in his bus, the MTA lot.
And what's the point of approaching the MTA employee?
Well, when we get to something as a report of a shooting, we have to do everything we can to determine what happened, if anything, right? When we get there, we have to work with what we got, not with what we'd like, but we work with what we got. So if there's anybody in the area, I'd make it a point, well, obviously, to go talk to them. Hey, did you hear anything? Did you see anything? There are some people who are reluctant to call the police, but if they're approached when you get there, they may actually provide you some information to work with.
Okay. Is it fair to say at that point you were having trouble determining if a crime had even occurred?
That's correct, yeah.
After speaking with the MTA employee, he directed you generally to the area of Vista Del Mar and Selma, correct?
Correct.
And Vista Del Mar is that small street between El Centro and Argyle?
Correct, this one here.
Okay. But is it fair to say that even the MTA employee told you he wasn't sure if it was gunshots? He said possible?
Right, and we all heard that on the video. He said maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Could have been something to that effect.
Okay. At around that point in the transcript, page 4, around line 14, you're told through the radio, quote, the PR from incident 4245 does not wish to meet. Can you explain what that means in layman's terms?
Sure, so prior to this, I had actually, and we saw that on the video, I had asked if the PR, which stands for person reported, that could be anybody who calls 911, that's how we refer to them, person reported. I asked if they would like to meet. I do this on almost every call because it makes sense to just meet with the person who saw what they saw and decided to call the police. So that's what I was doing there. Incident 4245 is just the last four of the incident number, which is unique to each call, so we can differentiate one call from the other.
Were you hoping to receive additional information from the reporting person? Is that your purpose in trying to meet with them?
Correct, yes.
And when you're told that that person does not want to meet with you, how does that affect your investigation?
Well, it's tough. I mean, I know there's maybe there's a big expectation on us when we arrive to just figure it out on our own, but the reality is we need the public's help. We need to meet with people who saw what happened and determined they needed to call the police. That there are witnesses, there are best means of investigation for sure.
Okay. When you approach the intersection of Vista Del Mar and Selma, so now we're about right where this icon is. Where did you go?
So we went to the, as was indicated in the comments of the call, the parking lot next to the stop sign is how it was described. And that was the information we had to work off of. And right here is a stop sign controlling traffic east and west on Selma. And there is a parking lot there, which we saw in the video. So
okay. I'm going to stop you, Sergeant,
sure.
really quick, because when you say right here, we have to identify where you're pointing.
Sure.
So my recollection when you said right here, and correct me if I'm wrong, was sort of maybe just above where the icon is, the gun icon?
Correct, northwest corner of Vista Del Mar and Selma, that parking lot there.
Okay, and I'm actually going to switch over to People's 2, this photograph. I'm going to zoom in to the same icon is, just to orient us. Would that be that same corner that you're talking about? I know Vista Del Mar is not labeled, but is that Vista Del Mar?
Correct, it would be this parking lot.
Okay.
On the northwest corner.
And if it's easier for you to describe where you went on the photograph, would you do that? If you want me to flip back to the map, People's 1, just let me know.
But this is fine.
So where did you go after you got to the intersection?
So when I got here to the northwest corner, I exited my vehicle and walked the actual parking lot on the northwest corner.
So are you saying you stopped your patrol car right at that corner?
No, I would say just north of mid-block.
Okay. Is there any point or reference you can point to on here where your car was stopped?
So on this map, I think a good approximate would be right above the N here on this Hollywood Levon on the map.
Okay. And after so you drove your patrol car up this street and parked it there, correct?
Correct.
Where did you go after you got out of your car?
To the parking lot here in the northwest corner of Selma and Argyle.
On the video, we saw you and your partners interacting with someone holding a skateboard after you got out of your car. To your knowledge, did that person provide any details about the crime?
No, we didn't receive any information to work with from him.
Okay. On the video, we saw you walking through the parking lot. What was your point in walking through the parking lot?
Well, the comments of the call updated and again directed us to that lot next to the stop sign as it's described. At that point, we're looking for evidence of a shooting. In that specific scenario, vehicles with windshields and windows that are destroyed, flat tires on vehicles, damage to vehicles, impacts from firearms.
Did you see any of that?
We did not, no.
Okay. Did you find any victims in the parking lot?
No.
Would you describe the parking lot as nearly full of cars?
Yes.
Towards the end of your video clip, we heard you and your partner addressing someone who was off camera. Do you recall that?
Yes.
If you can describe that person at all, who was that?
Can't recall what he looked like, but I believe he was a resident or somebody that was occupying that apartment there above the parking lot. And I can't recall, but from watching the video, he said he saw 2 guys, and then the rest you can't hear on video. Okay. But I do remember independently that he also didn't provide anything. He just didn't have anything to provide us that we could work with in terms of investigation.
So you talked to the MTA employee, you talked to a skateboarder, you talked to a resident at a building there. Fair to say none of them provided you details about this crime?
Correct.
Okay. At that point, did you know where, if at all, this shooting had occurred?
No.
How would you categorize the search that you and your partners did of the street of Vista Del Mar, just north of Selma?
Categorize or characterize?
Yeah, how would you characterize it?
I would say typical of responding to a shooting call. We're looking for victims that are down. We're looking for witnesses who can direct us to suspects or victims who are down. We're looking for damage to vehicles or buildings, impacts, right, from gunfire, those sorts of things.
Would you say that you and your partners searched every inch of that street?
We didn't search every inch of that street. No.
Okay.
Can't say that.
As you sit here, can you say to a certainty that there was not a fired cartridge case in that street on Vista Del Mar?
I can't say that I may have missed something. It's possible.
Okay. The last exhibit I have for you, Your Honor, to ask Mark is People's 5. Is it reasonable, in your opinion, to believe that if there was a expended cartridge casing in that street, that you may have missed it?
Yes.
Oh. What is the People's 5?
People's 5 is another map, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Is it a map or is it an aerial photograph?
It's a map. And it
There
has...
is objection to that last question.
Can we have the grounds with the objection?
Sure.
Read the question back, please.
That's speculation.
Is it reasonable, in your opinion, to believe that if there was an expended cartridge casing in that street, that you may have missed it?
Sustain. As phrased.
In your experience working patrol, is it reasonable that sometimes you will respond to a shooting and miss certain evidence such as fired cartridge casings?
That's correct.
And if you miss a fired cartridge case, how is it that you could say, yeah, on that instance, I missed that piece of evidence or something like that?
You mean how would I find out later?
Yes.
A couple ways. I mean, somebody finds it the next day when the light's up and they see it, and they call the police and say, hey, this doesn't look right. That's one way.
Has that happened in your career?
I have heard of that happening. It hasn't happened to me.
Is it typical that after a case is investigated by a patrol officer, it's passed on to a detective?
Yes.
And have you heard of occasions where the detectives will go back and search an area and find something that patrol officers missed?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Now I'm going to get People's 5, the map, and it's annotated with 4 different colored arrows, if I may.
Yes.
Sergeant, the area of People's 5 here, you've already described this to be the area that you responded to that night, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree that the arrows generally reflect the path that you took as you were driving around in your patrol car as we watched it on the body of the video?
Yes.
So as you started down here where the number 1 is, headed north on El Centro, made a left turn on Selma, then come south on Argyle, and made a right turn on Sunset?
Right, westbound turn on the Sunset, yes.
Okay. And when you were on Sunset, did you make a U-turn and then head back up Argyle?
Correct.
Did you cross Selma and go into the bus depot on the corner of Argyle and Selma?
Correct.
And then did you come out and go to Vista Del Mar and then go north on Vista Del Mar?
Correct.
And would the yellow generally reflect it's very hard to see, but would that generally reflect where you walked through the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
Let me see if the sidebar not on the record, please.
I'm going to go up to a certain part, Your Honor.
Say again?
I'm going to go up to a certain part. That's the part you can break on. I think it should take us right to last floor.
Well, we have to break the floor.
Yeah, I'm saying. I might be a few minutes short of floor, but we'll give the world here. Hey, Sergeant, how are you?
Good, sir. How you doing?
Just a couple things. This whole line of questioning about the possibility that you may have missed something. Remember that line of questioning the prosecutor asked you about?
Yes, sir.
You're not trained to miss something. You're trained to find things, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, when you say you may have missed something, there were 7 of you guys responding officers at the scene, correct?
Did you say 7?
Yeah.
I don't think it was 7, but
Really? Okay, how many do you think there were?
I think 3 total.
Oh, no. Did you see the video?
I did. I only saw 2 others, including myself. That's 3.
How about Brian Kujavix? You know him?
Kujavix? Yes.
Was he there?
I believe so, yes.
How about John Cook?
Yes.
Okay. Gerardo Sweeney?
Don't recall.
Okay. Steve Lawson?
Also same.
Rocky Martinez?
Same.
Okay. How about Adrian Rodriguez?
Don't remember seeing him.
And Jose Quintanilla?
Quintanilla? No, sir.
You don't remember seeing him either?
No.
So, anyway, there is camp footage of other officers, not just yours, right?
Correct, yeah.
Anyway, long story short, you don't know if you missed something, right?
I don't think anybody would know if they missed something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What was the first time you discussed the possibility that maybe you missed something with the prosecutors? What was the first time you discussed that?
I mean, today we reviewed stuff, right?
I don't know. I wasn't there today.
Correct.
But it was the first time you discussed maybe I missed something.
Yeah.
When did this happen?
Oh, this was in 2021.
Oh. And what's it now?
This is 2025.
Okay. So, for the first time since 2021, today is the first time you discussed with the prosecutors, oh, I may have missed something.
Correct.
And the first time you met with them, anyone in this case, was on Wednesday, right?
No, today is the first time I met with them. Spoke with them on the phone.
On Wednesday?
Wednesday, I believe, about scheduling and about appearing to court.
So today's the first time you met with them?
Met with them in person, yes.
And the first time you discussed testimony was today?
Yes.
You didn't discuss it on Wednesday?
No, we discussed scheduling and what the case was about. That's it.
You take your duties seriously. By the way, let me stop you for a second. you were asked what you were looking for hypothetically when you arrived at the scene of a call for a shooting. You recall that?
Yes.
And you said victims, yes?
Yes.
Damage to property, correct?
Correct.
What about shell casings? Would you look for that too?
Sure.
Because you didn't mention that. That would be something, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you take your duties as a law enforcement officer seriously, don't you?
I do.
You do. And because of that, you make your best effort to perform your duties to the best of your ability.
Correct.
And you do, in fact, the best to perform your police functions carefully.
Yes.
And you're a sergeant, right?
Yes.
I mean, very distinguished position, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you pay attention to detail, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, you get called to a shooting scene. You guys had flashlights too, right?
Correct.
Searchlights. You know what you're looking for, right?
Correct.
On November 6, 2021 at 10:27 p.m., you had received a report of shots fired, right?
Correct.
And you responded to the area of Selma and East Del Mar.
Correct.
And you were wearing your body camera, I think that was established, right?
Yes, sir.
And you reported that.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, fellow officers reported video as well.
Correct.
And you, in turn, reported your fellow officers' activity.
Right.
You exited your car around 10:31.
Can't independently recall, but if it shows that on the timestamp, that timestamp's accurate. There's no reason to believe it's not.
Correct. Not if it's accurate.
Correct.
Okay. And your car was parked next to that parking lot on East Del Mar?
Yes.
And after exiting your car, you walked southbound on East Del Mar?
Correct.
Towards the stop sign on the corner there, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes. And then you walked into that parking lot with all those cars, right?
Yes, sir.
By the way, there was no damage to any of those cars that you found, right?
Not that we saw, no.
And you were looking, right? You guys were looking.
Yes, sir.
And once you were in the parking lot, according to your body cam footage, you walked from one end of it to the other.
Correct.
As you did that, you had your flashlight on.
Sure.
All right. And you saw from your body cam footage, other officers had their flashlights on.
Correct.
Now, at one point from your body cam footage, you were looking at the windshield of a vehicle with your flashlight, right?
The rear windshield on that red car?
Yeah.
Yes.
You were searching for signs of shooting, right?
Correct.
All right. You didn't find any broken glass?
No.
No damaged cars?
No.
No bullet holes?
No.
You established no shell casings?
Correct.
No blood?
Correct.
In fact, you didn't find any signs of shooting, right?
Correct.
Now, you said there have been times you responded to a reported shooting only to find that the person who made the call intentionally lied about it, right?
Right, like the false report of emergency or
Yeah.
somebody suffering from an illness.
Yes.
Right.
So that would be an intentional lie, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you'd agree that if someone misreports a shooting that never really happened, you wouldn't expect to find any evidence of it when you get there, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, your own body cam footage ended at 22:33:16, meaning 10:33 and 16 seconds, right?
Okay.
But you still remained on the scene after that was turned off, right?
Well, I can't remember, but if I'm turning it off, it's because I've concluded what I need to do, and then I'm leaving.
Well, after searching the parking lot, you searched the street as well.
Are you saying after I went into the parking lot, I exited?
Exactly.
I don't remember if I did. I'm going off my body worn.
Okay, well, I'm going to help refresh your recollection if I can, okay? Who was that officer with that name that I mispronounced badly? Brian?
You
You too? Okay.
Kijevix? Yeah.
Kijevix.
Call him Brian.
There's a J, a B, and an X all in there, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Him. So, Brian.
Right.
Officer Brian.
Yes.
I want to show you the body cam footage that's been marked as defense exhibit A, for identification. We don't need it. It's not for the sound. We don't need the audio portion of it. It's just for visual. Okay.
What? Defense A.
Now, directing you to 22:35:50, 20 seconds into this video. Hold on 1 second. Is that it? You good there? Yeah. So that's 22:35:50, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's whatever it is.
10:35 p.m.
Thank you. 20 seconds into the video. Do you recognize yourself on it?
I do.
Okay. So you did go to the street after the parking lot, right?
Yes.
And at that point, your body camera is off?
I can't remember if it's on or off, if there's an additional video you want me to watch, but again, this was 4 years ago.
No, I understand. That's what you spoke about for the first time today with the prosecutor, right?
Correct.
All right. Did you see any of your body cam footage today when you talked about it for the first time, displaying what you're looking at?
My own video?
Yeah.
Yes.
Showing that part?
No, not this.
Right. I know you saw your video from before that we all saw, right?
Right.
But you don't see any of your body cam footage showing this, right?
No.
Okay. But that is you, right?
It is, yes.
And that video truly and accurately reflects your activities during the search of the scene on November 6, 2021, correct?
Correct.
Weren't I off as Defense Exhibit A?
You already have it marked.
Offering
I'm sorry, what are you
evidence.
doing?
I identified it and I'm offering it evidence.
It's evidence?
Yes, sir.
Any objections?
Evidence would not move something into evidence until the case is
That's
closed.
true. There can be a motion to admit evidence at any time as long as there is a foundation and it's relevant and admissible. Do you have an objection now as to foundation or relevance?
No, I don't.
Defense A is admitted.
Now the street shown there, sir, behind you. Sure. Oh, you have a little camera screen there.
So this is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but thank you.
Very small country.
Sure.
It's time. Okay. Ding. We'll continue.
All right. Well, we're going to have to recess now, sir.
Sure.
So you're going to come back on Tuesday,
Okay.
10:30 in the morning.
10:30, all right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming in today. And see you.
All right.